Looks like we're getting everybody back in. That's great. Toby, hopefully your super tech support is going to work.
We'll see. They kick your kids off the internet?
I did, but I went ahead and rebooted everything too. So
You sound good right now.
great. I think it was just tired.
Yeah, right. I think my Wi-Fi router is steaming in the corner.
Yeah. It's super frustrating when that happens.
Hi, Lisa and Bruce. How are you? Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Hi, everybody.
Hi, congratulations, Lisa.
Oh, thank you, Reagan.
Well deserved.
Thank you. I'm super happy too.
See, our participant count is going up by the minute. That's nice.
Yeah.
Just give Spring a chance to sign in because she said she was getting on right now.
Yeah. Hi, Kevin.
Hello.
Hey, Kevin.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Testing. All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. That wasn't mine this time.
A bloody rooster. Every time I mute him, it stops, and every time I unmute, it starts again.
Do you think the Seattle school board meetings have roosters?
Probably not. I suspect not. It's either that deal with the animal noises outside or the family noises inside. So I've chosen animal noises.
If anyone is feeling left out, I have a rooster that I can share.
It's okay. I've got 10.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can have like a special Zoom background, you know, a video like of being on the beach or in space or whatever. What Zoom needs is a audio background of roosters and sheep and things like that.
We can help there.
For new business.
Hi, Thomas.
Still looking, still not seeing Spring quite yet.
Yeah.
Ooh, that was nice.
Do you want to go ahead and we can just get the meeting started? I think we can move forward.
Okay.
Sure
All right.
She'll join us soon.
Okay, then. 7:05, and we're going to call tonight's meeting to order of the Vashon Island School District School Board. And thank you, everyone who's online with us or going to be watching this later. We appreciate your time and interest. We are going to go ahead and look to amend the agenda, I believe, to allow for all the public comment we have, which will take a lot longer than 15 minutes. So wants to make that motion?
I'll move that we agenda the amendment. How about that?
I like it.
That we
I second it.
amend the agenda to make, we can hear all these letters.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 The agenda is so amended, and we are going to go ahead and go to public comment here.
Yeah,
And
that's
Slade
great.
is going to read all of these, and we're going to make an effort to show the videos as well, I think.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I'm not sure if I do have the videos, but I think Jody has them as well. So when we get to the end of the public comments, I'll ask that Jody, it looks like she has them up above in her tabs. So I think we'll be ready to go.
okay.
Okay.
So with no further ado, I think we'll go ahead and begin with that.
Yep. Let me try to get to where I can see this a little bit better. There we go. All right. The first public comment is Allison Shirk. Okay, dear board, reading through the documents, it appears the school will start at 9 a.m. I strongly suggest pushing that to 10 a.m. for middle and high school aged youth to ensure they get adequate sleep. I believe this is more important than ensuring that families have start times at the same times. Teens need to make sure they sleep and are ready to learn. Second, I would strongly like to recommend that teachers do not base achievement on time-based learning. For example, the student must be on the Khan Academy for X minutes each day. Students need to be challenged based on the learning content. So it would be a better situation to have them work towards getting to a certain level with Khan Academy rather than simply monitoring time spent. Motivation is a huge factor for learning. Khan Academy was created with this in mind, but is only effective if the program is used as it was intended. Sincerely, Allison. The next comment is by Tara Schaller. Tara Schaller, hello. First, I appreciate the impossible undertaking it is to create a reopening plan. Thank you for the work you're doing. I am writing, as is my understanding, from a conversation related to me from Renee Henson that she had with Rebecca Gertzel, that the results from the surveys were never compiled as of 8/11. I also understand that the surveys have been reviewed somewhat, but there is no actual data or statistics that can be used at this time. If this is the case, I am seriously concerned about what the board administration is basing their decision on regarding this plan. Also, I can't tell, I haven't gotten into it enough to tell, if the reopening committee is being used as a resource for the decision making. If the committee is not being utilized, then this furthers my concerns about where the decisions are being made from. I have no doubt that the board administration only has our school community's best interest in mind. I'm just hoping that we can slow down a little and use some of the data to inform the decisions. I'm requesting that the announcement of the reopening plan be postponed until further thought and attention can be given to this. It seems to me that the extent to which the surveys and committee are being used is primarily anecdotally, which I feel is a mistake and a missed opportunity. Also, I am willing to compile data if that is the kind of support that is needed or wanted. Thank you, Tara Schaller, parent of 3rd and 7th grader. The next public comment, Lauren Strain. To our VISD leaders, as a parent, this proposed schedule is deeply concerning to me. I do not feel that it adequately addresses the academic needs of our children. I am also concerned that this wasn't proposed to families with more of an opportunity for feedback. Before proceeding with this plan, could you please address whatever measures will be accompany this plan to ensure the kids are able to cover all the information needed in a school year and how to keep that information fresh and relevant while they have a break from a particular subject? I appreciate how difficult this period of time is for all of us and what a difficult job you have making a new educational plan in such a short time. Thank you so much for your time and attention in considering this matter. Lauren Strain, LM CPM. This is by Tammy Brockaway Joyce. Dear Slade, Rebecca, Greg, Danny, and the Vashon School Board, let me open by saying I don't envy you. You are in a position where no matter what you do, some group of people is going to be angry. That S-U-C-K-S sucks. I know you all have good hearts and minds and are doing your best to make our schools work in this new pandemic world we are living in. I'm grateful for each of you. And you knew there'd be an and. I'm concerned about the fall. I'm concerned that the data from our community survey isn't being utilized effectively. I'm concerned that the input from reopening committee isn't being considered. The survey and committee feel a bit like an exercise in placating us and less like an actual effort to collaborate with the community. I am unable to attend the board meeting Thursday as I'll be at another board meeting, so I'm writing to ask that we slow down a bit. I would like to see our district continue to develop the survey that the reopening committee is working on and use that data to make our plan. I'm lucky. My kids are old enough to be home alone if my partner and I are working outside the home, old enough to manage themselves more or less. I'm worried about the families who don't have that luxury. I'm worried about families with single parents, with two parents working outside the home, with learning differences and behavioral issues, with a lack of computer literacy, with crummy internet speeds. And I'm also worried about all our kids spending so much time in front of computers. Even though my kids really like school and dig learning, spring was rough. I don't know if there's some magic to motivate kids to stay focused when sitting alone at the kitchen table, but I need that magic. Thank you for your care and effort. Thank you for working hard to make it all work. Thanks for listening to all of us noisy parents. Warmly, Tammy Brockaway Joyce. This next comment is from Renee Henson. Dear School Board, Tuesday afternoon, I met with Slade, Reagan, Spring, and Rebecca to discuss the issues I had with the process for coming up with a plan for reopening schools this fall. My biggest issue is information gathering and compiling. While parents and teachers and students did complete surveys in the spring, the surveys were geared towards coming back to school in the fall instead of continuing online. There were no questions that asked directly about what didn't work in the online program. More importantly, the questions that were asked were gathered but not quantified when I met with Slade, Rebecca, and the others on 8/11. They managed to summarize some of the survey results for the plan today, but the results are prefaced with this paragraph. NB, this is not truly scientific analysis of the qualitative results as I did not have time to code the responses. This is the result of scanning our responses in each question and looking for both common themes and issues and broadly tracking their frequency, as well as including interesting ideas. My concern is that if the data they have was not been compiled in any form until today, it could not have possibly been used for the virtual 2.0 planning or the reopening planning in general. If we are collecting information that has not been turned into data, then we are collecting anecdotes. We have a system that rewards those who shout the loudest and those whose thoughts and priorities line up with those in power, while the rest of us are left to scream into the void. An equitable system this does not make. I am asking that you slow down, collect data from the community that can in turn drive the reopening planning and process. If you refuse, you are asking to plow ahead without the possibility of accountability or oversight. I don't care if you come up with the best plan in the world. It is important to create the right plan the right way. Thank you for your time, Renee Henson. This next comment is from Brenda Walls. Hi, I just wanted to say our family and student loves the proposed online schedule. I think it helps them focus more on a few subjects at a time instead of cramming all their classes into one day all semester long. Well done. I would also like to request for high school that the start time be pushed back to 9:30 or 10 a.m. Many thanks, Brenda. This next comment is Christy Stone. Also says, okay, Christy. Hello. It just came to my attention that the schedule for McMurray next year is changing to a quarter system with 3 subjects taught the first quarter and 3 different subjects taught the second quarter. I have questions that the document doesn't answer. Will students attend 4 quarters? Because generally for a quarter-based system, the 4th quarter is an optional summer quarter. What is the pedagogical reasoning behind alternating subjects rather than continuous learning through the curriculum? Why does this seem to be the first time parents are hearing about this? My child is an incoming 6th grader, so maybe it's just that I was unaware. Based on a community post on the topic, that seems unlikely. I would appreciate clarity on this topic before school starts. Next comment is from Tessa Francis. Dear VISD members, it is my understanding that the current proposal for the 2021 schedule includes holding classes, including math and foreign languages, in alternating quarters, such that there could be a quarter-long breaks between sessions of math and language and other classes. I am concerned about the challenges the schedule presents students and teachers. Specifically for cumulative learning subjects like math and language, this will require repeat and remedial teaching at the beginning of the 2nd quarter, which wastes valuable time and bores students and teachers. I have heard there are other proposals to alternate subjects, including teaching math and foreign language, the cumulative learning subjects, every day, and other classes every other day. Thanks for considering Tessa Francis, Oscar Lopez, 8th grade. That's her student. The next public comment, Paco Joyce. I echo Tammy. Thanks for all your help and imagination trying to figure out the next best thing after going back to normal. What's that anyways? Smiley face. Cheers, Paco. The next comment is from Zoe Rothschild. Hi, Jody. I've looked through some of what is being sent, and I just wanted to get in some questions and feedback for the board and administrators before the meeting tonight. First, I want to thank everyone for doing their best in what is an unprecedented situation. There is truly no one way to address all the needs and concerns that are arising as we enter this new school year, and I'd encourage them to keep communicating and keep meeting and refining. My question and feedback is on the new 4-quarter A-B schedule. I'd like clarification on if a class that is only scheduled for 1 semester, like trigonometry, is now going to be completed in 9 weeks or somehow divided up. My hope and assumption is the former. In general, I think the 4-quarter schedule they have proposed with only 3 classes at one time sounds more like a block schedule. And if I'm reading it correctly, I am in full support. While there can be concerns about continuity that need to be addressed by teachers by allowing for additional catch-up or review at the beginning of a block, I think it makes a lot of sense in an online environment to have fewer classes to juggle. Blocks can help with depth of learning, and most classes are taught in units anyway and have natural breaking points. So I'd encourage the administration to have teachers use those natural breaks in their planning, as there will be a 9-week break between blocks of the same subject. I'd also encourage the administration to communicate the many advantages of this system more robustly. There is a lot of fear about it and the perceived choppiness of it and lack of continuity. If done well, these concerns really can be addressed, and the students may get more out of classes than they otherwise would if everything was being delivered at once. I had suggested a block program in one of the surveys I filled in, and I'm grateful that it has made its way into the schedule. This next comment is from Beth. Please forgive my pronunciation, Nauman, Montana. I would like to begin by thanking you all for your efforts during this challenging time. I appreciate the hard work you're doing. Reducing the number of classes to 3 will allow the students to stay focused for longer periods, and I support that. What concerns me, however, are the subjects that build cumulatively on ideas, skills, and concepts, algebra, geometry, languages, etc. The quarter system essentially builds 2 summer slides into the academic year. Daily classes for these subjects would be the best option. Breaking the year into semesters to maintain the continuity of instruction and learning would be another option I would encourage you to consider. Best, Beth Nauman, Montana. I apologize if I didn't have your name correctly. This next is from Bella Ormseth. I have seen the proposed remote learning schedule for McMurray and Vashon High School, which shows a quarter-based schedule with 1 quarter having daily classes of periods 1, 3, 5, and the next quarter switching to periods 2, 4, 6. I like this schedule because, as we've all learned by now, sitting in front of a computer is exhausting, and so limiting a quarter to 3 periods with longer class periods and breaks in between, instead of trying to cram in all 6 in a day, seems a lot more sane. There will be a review time undoubtedly for math and foreign languages after a break of 9 weeks, but I think that is preferable to a semester system with no math or language for a whole semester. There are difficult choices all around. I also think that changing the schedule every quarter instead of every semester will make the year go by in a more interesting way. But having a week where the daily schedule is the same also provides consistency our kids need. It's a good balance. Those are my opinions, but I'd like to know the thinking that went behind coming up with the quarter schedule and the focus on 3 periods per quarter. 2, has there been any effort to create more outdoor classroom space, especially if the schools eventually go to the mixed remote and on-site schedule? We are so lucky to have a campus with so much outdoor space, but in the past, it hasn't been used much by classes other than sports or time other than recess. It's as if we can't see what a great potential resource it is because we're so used to having all this space. Bella Ormseth. Yumi Pringle, next comment. To the board, school principals, and school superintendent. In reviewing the distance learning schedule for the first semester 2021 for the high school and McMurray, I have some serious concerns. Major concerns. 1, The core subjects of math, English, and science are going to be missing from students learning for 9 weeks the first semester. That is almost a summer break. In speaking with teachers, they have confirmed for me that even with longer periods, they will not be able to cover the material necessary with half the calendar days of classroom instruction. This schedule eliminates academic learning continuity. Questions, statements. 1, how is this schedule in the best interest of our students learning and being prepared for college? 2, we are in different times, which requires looking at what are the critical subjects and goals of teaching for our students. Math, English, and science are the critical subjects that our students need to fully understand and have strong skills in prior to graduation. 3, graduation requirements need to be revised to reflect what is best for our students. 4, other school districts are doing schedules that better support the learning of core subjects. For example, reducing the classes to 4 or 5 per semester instead of 6, and making sure the core classes are being covered continuously. Another example is by subject matter. Everyone takes math from 9 to 10 a.m., English from 10:15 to 11:15 a.m., science noon to 1 p.m., and elective social studies 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. Please find a solution that provides continuous instruction for the core subjects of math, English, and science. The current schedule will leave our students ill-prepared to enter college and be successful after graduation. Sincerely, Yumi Pringle. Thank you. The next comment is by Trista Baldwin. Trista Baldwin. To me, ILA, sorry, I'm not sure what that is. I am writing to plead the case for not interrupting math or language instruction during online schooling. I appreciate the 3-period-a-day plan for some effects, but there must be a way to prioritize continuity of math and language instruction so students do not have to relearn and have the stress of losing knowledge between quarters. This is an absolutely critical issue of concern for my 9th grader. Thank you, Baldwin. The title of hers was Please Make Math and Language Full Year, No Break in Quarter for VHS. Public comment. This one is by Barbara May Gale, PhD. Dear Vashon School Board members, as an educator and administrator for over 30 years, I must urge board members to maximize student learning during the COVID-19 pandemic by supporting the current semester system. Best practice research strongly suggests that student learning and retention is enhanced by endorsing a semester system, and I urge you to vote no on converting to a less effective quarter system. I request your support for the 3 reasons articulated below. First, please consider that online learning, though new to Vashon School District, is not a new phenomenon. Picciano and Seaman, 2009, estimated that more than 1 million K-12 students took online courses in the school year 2007 to 2008. According to the U.S. Department of Education report aggregating over 50 studies of online efficacy in 2010, online instruction appears to be as effective as conventional classroom instruction. Thus, Vashon has many proven models that have maximized student learning to draw upon and does not need to introduce one more element of change. Second, educational research reveals that the longer exposure allows semester calendar allows for better quality of instruction, end quote, Resilient Educator 2020. Educators argue, quote, rather than learn just the facts, students have more time to learn theories and generalizations and have time to absorb new concepts, end quote, Resilient Educator, April 2020. Additionally, quote, 6-month long terms are superior to 3-month long terms because they give students the opportunity to really internalize complex topics and more time to approach difficult material in depth, end quote, Resilient Educator, April 2020. These authors suggest that forcing students to, quote, learn quicker provides inadequate education, end quote, Resilient Educator, April 2020. Thus, to maximize student learning and retention, the semester system is endorsed more frequently than a quarter system, which I can verify from my own experiences. But more importantly is the learning loss or slide associated with the proposed quarter system. Quim and Polikoff, 2017, discussed summer learning loss and argue that, quote, an early comprehensive review of the literature summarized several findings. 1, on average, students' achievement scores declined over summer vacation by 1 month's worth of school year learning. 2, declines were sharper for math than reading. And 3, the extent of loss was larger at higher grade levels, end quote. Thus, for subjects such as math, languages, and science, the plan for teaching them every other quarter risk the same learning loss as documented learning during the summer months. Additionally, new research on learning loss during this pandemic suggests learning loss is exacerbated by all the changes being made. Works 2020 explains that COVID learning loss reflects the gaps in academic growth due to disruptions of learning following shelter-in-place orders and compared to what students would have achieved in a regular classroom setting, even with online learning. It also takes into account the lowered expectations for student work that have accompanied distance learning, including optional homework and pass/no-pass grading, end quote. Research at the Northwest Evaluation Association, a Portland, Oregon-based research organization, 2020, quote, estimated COVID-19 related learning loss by using data from a group of 5 million 3rd through 8th graders who took assessment tests in 2017-18. The research compared what student achievement would be if learning growth continued at the same rate as when schools closed to what it would be if learning loss was typical of a summer slide, end quote. Using March 15th as the end of school date, these researchers suggest that students would return in fall, quote, would return in fall 2020 with 70% of the learning gains in reading and less than 50% of the learning gains and nearly a year behind in some grades compared to a regular school year, end quote. School districts have been addressing summer loss, quote, because it may exacerbate achievement gaps, but also because it, quote, wastes, quote, so much of the knowledge students have gained during the school year, end quote. Quinn and Polikoff, 2017. Because an achievement gap is likely to happen in a system where math, languages, and science are being proposed for every other quarter, the Vashon School District must continue to endorse a semester system. Planning a month's review for summer learning loss and 4 quarters learning loss does not maximize student learning. As Weeks 2020 concluded, quote, now more than ever with students out of their regular learning environments for the COVID crisis, disruptions to schooling are taking a toll on students' academic growth, end quote. Vashon School Board members should not make additional changes that risk learning loss and likely exacerbate student learning and retention. I urge you to support the current semester system and make Vashon students academically competitive to fulfill their current and future educational aspirations. Sincerely, Barbara Mageo, PhD. Let's see. Next one is by Terry Vickers. Dear Vashon School community, I am writing to share my grave concern about the proposed schedule for VHS and McMurray students for the pending school year. Found on page 15 of the VISD Distance Learning Guide, the proposed schedule includes months-long breaks during the subject teaching. Breaks that studies repeatedly show are detrimental to learning and retention. See summer learning loss, what is it and what can we do about it, for example. The current proposal is to break the school year into quarters with 3 periods taught each quarter. The effect of this will be that all classes, including math and foreign languages, will be taught during quarters that are separated by 9+ weeks. Math and foreign language learning, cumulative, building upon specific skills and concepts learning during that class. An unnecessary 9-week break in learning is not conducive to student success. Some examples of the proposed schedule. Example 1, Joey has algebra first period. First period will only be taught during the 1st and 3rd quarters of the year, which means Joey will have 9 weeks between math instruction in a class that builds upon skills taught early in the course. Example 2, Ross has French second period. French will be taught only during the 2nd and 4th quarters of the year, which means Ross will have a 9-week break, roughly the equivalent of an entire summer in the middle of his French class. His cumulative language skills will unnecessarily suffer the equivalent of an additional summer loss during the school year. Example 3, Phoebe has AP history during 4th period. Phoebe will only be taught AP history during the 2nd and 4th quarters of the year. Aside from the break in instruction, the AP history test is offered in the spring well before she has completed the class. This will make it difficult for Phoebe to achieve success in the AP history test as she hasn't been taught much of the content yet. This community cares deeply about students and their learning. Per day, quarters instead of semesters, adjusted start times, the many alternate schedules that have been adopted by other school districts. These and other ideas will provide essential support to our students through this pandemic. Inserting unnecessary 9-week breaks into class subjects that require cumulative learning does not support student learning and continuity. Several other remote learning schedules exist that will support our students, reduce their stress, and be more conducive to learning and retention. For our students' sake, please select an alternate schedule that will not impose additional reduction in learning and retention during these unprecedented times. Thank you for your time and attention. Terry Vickers, parent of students at VHS and McMurray. Next comment is by Ray Priest. August 13th, 2020. Friends and colleagues, I recently learned of plans to alter curriculum delivery mechanisms at Vashon High School. While the pandemic forces our teachers to make difficult curricular and pedagogical decisions, I cannot recommend the administrative actions being discussed and described in the superintendent's proposal. My concerns involve changing the learning culture that has evolved over many years at VHS. School cultures flourish within the calendar year, and shifting from semesters alters the DNA of that culture, the unseen cost of changing the calendar year. I have been involved in university deliberations to shift from semesters to quarters. In my experience, most instructors prefer using the extra weeks in the semester system to reinforce key concepts and develop the nuances of various approaches to problem solving. Successful teachers notice when students deviate from the trajectory of learning outcomes and have strategies in place to nudge learners back to the path. These teachers also diagnose reasons for gaps in comprehension, and the semester provides the time to develop rapport and encourage confidence building activities. The shorter quarter system restricts those learning activities. The learning loss associated with the quarter system, there is a case for comparing the learning loss associated with summer vacation to the learning loss associated from shifting to the quarter system. The shorter term provides fewer seat hours and opportunities to respond to a student in difficulty. The plan under consideration seems to silo academic programs, making it difficult to extend concepts from, for example, an algebra class to geometry or from geometry to trigonometry. The gap rotation of disciplines is a source of diminished retention, and this proposal mandates gaps across the curriculum. If implemented, teachers will need extra resources to adjust lesson plans and respond to learning loss in every field. Institutional costs that would be difficult to undo. It is often said that we can return to the old ways after this emergency is over. This rarely happens. Changes in the calendar affect the daily experiences and expectations of students, parents, teachers, and staff. The additional weeks in the semester regimen allow many unnoticed but vital opportunities to coach, mentor, and inspire students. The quarter system too often sacrifices these moments of deep learning and reflection for the need to wrap it up and get to the next menu of classes. It becomes difficult to circle back and ask hard questions and struggle with uncomfortable answers. As I write this letter, the Seattle Public School System announced moving the curriculum totally online. This difficult decision underscores the importance of your deliberations. To my knowledge, Vashon School System is the only system shifting calendar as a response to COVID-19. We run the risk of institutionalizing a culture that limits our teachers' opportunities to impact students, creates learning loss, and will be difficult to undo. Until others help us understand the effects of calendar changes as a response to COVID-19, I recommend retaining the semester system that has served Vashon well for many years. Respectfully, Raymond W. Priest, PhD. I apologize if I mispronounced your name, Ray. Risa Stahl. Regarding fall schedule for VHS and McMurray, tonight's school board meeting. I believe the 3 classes per quarter is a great schedule. However, why are classes being separated in terms 1 and 3 and 2 and 4? What is the benefit? Why not complete each class in 2 terms in a row? This seems like it would maintain the continuity of education as best as possible in these strange times. Thanks, Risa Stahl, parent of a junior. Next comment is Selena Yarkin. Hello, I have 2 comments. 1, communication from the schools to families is terrible right now. The emails preceding the board meeting contain no details of the remote learning plan to be voted on tonight, 3 weeks before school starts. This means that the only parents who can comment on this before the vote are the ones who searched for it in the agenda or found it on Facebook from a parent who did. Families were not polled on this model. 2, this AB schedule across quarters means that subjects will be dropped for a quarter of the year, picked up, and then dropped again. We know that math and science depend on continuity of instruction as we have to reteach subject matter every year when kids return from summer break. AP classes will be adversely affected by this as the instruction time to cover the material will be shortened. The AP tests come in May. Each year-long course will only be taught for half the year. Are the teachers removing material from the curriculum because they will only have half the time? Or will students do the same amount of work as when they have a full load of classes, but they will have half the subjects, and switch back? That has never been done before and is quite radical. For the first time, we feel the decision by the schools may actually hurt our 2 high school students' ability master the material. Were there other remote learning models that were considered? Why weren't families pulled like we were earlier in the summer? What is your reasoning for this model? I would appreciate some discussion around these questions. Next comment is by David Hackett. Dear Board, initially I must express my extreme disappointment on how the proposed schedule for VHS McMurray has been presented to the public, including the lack of public input, deliberative planning, and board oversight. The proposed schedule, which is a substantial departure from the time-tested semester system, is not clearly identified in the agenda, nor in the resolution placed before the board. Instead, the proposal is buried on page 15 of an ambiguously worded attachment that was publicly released only late yesterday. There has been no transparency in this process, no meaningful engagement of the public, nor any opportunity for meaningful public discussion. Over the summer, the superintendent submitted no concrete proposals, and as a result, this board spent scant time publicly discussing any new distance learning strategies. This process should have been ongoing since June with focused and transparent meetings. It is difficult to have confidence in the district's leadership when such a basic public process is either ignored or avoided, especially when leadership ultimately puts forward an unvetted and untimely scheduling proposal that no other school district in our state has adopted. Because the late timing of the proposed schedule makes it a fait accompli designed to short circuit any real planning, public scrutiny, or board oversight, I offer one simple suggestion to fix a glaring problem with the superintendent's proposal. For classes that require consistency and cumulative learning over the course of a school year, including math, sciences, and foreign language, the current proposed schedule has students skipping these subjects entirely during intervening quarters. This makes no sense, greatly hampers a student's ability to learn, and sets them up for failure. From a student's perspective, I cannot imagine how difficult it would be to take a quarter of algebra and then take a full quarter off from this subject, 9 weeks plus, with the expectation that proficiency should remain when the second half of the class is offered the following quarter. Rather than set the schedule up with intervening quarters to interfere with year-long classes, why not hold these year-long classes in successive quarters? For example, a period 1 math class would begin quarter 1 and conclude during quarter 2. Offering odd period classes during quarters 1 and 2, even number classes during quarters 3 and 4 would at least resolve the problem of the proposed schedule of splitting year-long classes and interfering with continuity. It is foolhardy to assume that school will return to normal anytime next year, which means we must prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. We have already lost much of the last school year when distance learning became an unexpected reality. Now, despite many months to plan and implement, the current proposal sets kids up for losing much of the current school year. If this is all VISD has to offer, it substantially risks forcing many parents to seek other educational opportunities online, of which there are many, and take state enrollment dollars with them. I urge this board to exercise its oversight responsibilities and require the superintendent to submit an acceptable distance learning plan that complies with board policy directives. I would rather see school delayed by a week to get things right rather than going forward with a flawed plan that was submitted at the last minute without adequate public scrutiny or board input. Thank you for considering these points. David Hackett, Vashon Island, email address and phone number. Comment by Becca Economopoulos. Sorry, Becca Economopoulos. I think I can get it right 4 more times. Hello to the school board. My apologies again, Becca. First, thank you for your good work. I very much appreciate how challenging it is to satisfy a diverse array of needs for parents, kids, teachers, the administration, and our community in the midst of these unprecedented times. It's likely not possible to accommodate everyone's wishes. From my family's perspective, we are skeptical that the distance learning plan can work for us. We have a daughter in 3rd grade with 2 parents who work more than full time. We cannot interrupt our day to the degree that seems necessary to facilitate her remote learning. Furthermore, we do not feel comfortable with that much screen time when the science tells us, 1, it's not good for developing brains, and 2, the most important thing to cultivate in elementary school age children is a love of learning. More important than academics at that time. We found that screen-based learning was a real drag for our daughter and led to many frustrations and arguments. I fear that one of the great COVID casualties will be our public education system. We very much like to maintain enrollment and support our school, but we suspect many families will opt for other options in this moment. It leads me to wonder about what precisely is meant when you say there will be a good deal of flexibility in the distance learning program. Will you consider expanding the Family Link program in support of families like ours and the many, many others who are now on the wait list? Could you consider other means of supporting partial homeschoolers who would like to remain connected to the school, the curriculum, and the many great offerings from the VISD. Thanks, Becca Economopoulos, Executive Director of the Natural History Museum, co-founder, not an alternative. Thank you, Becca. Comment, Heather Rhodes Weaver. VISD Board. Thanks for the leadership during these tough times. I've been serving as a parent representative on the stakeholder group since last spring and would like to highlight a few top concerns. Keeping equity goals in mind, a one-size-fits-all approach poses risks of leaving many behind. Prioritizing supports and offering a variety of options could help VISD serve more families' needs. 1. Wi-Fi access. Reliable internet is expensive and unavailable in many locations in our community. What can VISD do to ensure more effective access for all? Meal delivery. Providing a basic need of nutrition helps many families beyond those who qualify for free and reduced lunches. Neighborhood delivery helps reduce risk of spreading COVID, as could adding a drop-off at Fauntleroy and Point Defiance for commuter families. How can parents support a request to the governor's office to enable continued and improved food services? 3. Counseling, mental health, and special needs support. Restoring and increasing staffing for school counselors and outreach programs are essential to enable learning for many students. What is needed to ensure mental health and tailored supports are prioritized as a foundation for learning? I should have asked that in a question. What is needed to ensure mental health and tailored supports are prioritized as a foundation for learning? 4. Safe children for VISD staff, safe childcare for VISD staff, essential workers, and outdoor social opportunities. While childcare is not the primary function of the public school, basic support for staff, community workers, and families who need the most help is a precondition to meet educational objectives. How can VISD engage community organizations to ensure affordable childcare? 5. Lumping subjects by quarter learning gaps. This plan was not discussed with the stakeholder group and poses many educational and equity issues. Seems rushed and may create more problems than it solves. This approach might work for some families, but penalizes others, especially those with the least ability to support continuity of learning at home for core subjects and students with learning challenges. Can VISD consider allowing a more full opt-in, opt-out system or adjustments and modifications for anyone who needs extra support to keep more students enrolled in the district and prevent online teaching from leading to further inequities? 6, a fall start date. With so much in flux, bumping the official start date of remote learning forward a week could help enable a smoother rollout. If the start date may be pushed forward, can VISD provide as much advance notice as possible for parents to prepare? Professionally, I prepare complex grant proposals and coordinate policy requests. I have offered to provide support for leading requests to the governor's office and assisting with fundraising to continue VISD's collaboration with the food bank to continue offering lunches even at a scale, if needed, as pay-as-you-go options to supplement costs for those qualifying for free and reduced lunches. Please feel free to contact me to discuss any concerns and how I can best focus my volunteer efforts. Heather Rhodes Weaver, parent of Luca, class of 26, and Shane, class of 28. Thank you, Heather. Next public comment, Math and Blythe Danes. I'm not sure. Vashon Island School Board members and Dr. McSheehy, thank you for your leadership and extra efforts that have gone into planning during this time. We recognize many of the unforeseen challenges that COVID-19 has caused you and your staff. The amount of communication and documentation provided has been very helpful and insightful to date. We do have some questions and concerns about the proposed Distance Learning 2.0 guide and plan that was just made available to the public. Are all VISD staff set up to deliver a successful remote class? What professional development has already been done and what specifically is planned before classes begin? What training has been provided for remote instruction versus just familiarization with the learning tools? Some of the FAQs provided regarding classroom basics do not seem engaging for students, with rules in place that appear to be more webinar-based learning versus an active engaged teacher-student model. There are many key concepts in remote learning that do not seem to be referenced or implied. Industry standards recommend engagement of some kind every 3 minutes in a remote class. These can be facilitated using polls, breakout sessions, hand raising, chat, utilizing drawing tools, and many more. It is difficult to read and manage the chat log and be attentive to the class. Requiring a student to manage questions put into chat while also being an attendee is not a good solution. This also negates the ability of other students to send private questions directly to the teacher. Advanced Placement AP courses are one of the only supports for advanced students within VISD. The AP tests are scheduled for May 17th and 18th, 2021. With the current schedule for classes, some students will not have completed all their required coursework before the test, and the other half will have finished it weeks earlier. This is a challenge for both scenarios. The 9-week plan, alternating quarters, eliminates academic learning continuity. We are concerned about these long breaks and how it will impact the students and their core subjects. Are the electives being offered conducive in a remote learning environment? Many electives require significant hands-on materials or equipment that are likely not available at home. We would be open to forgoing those classes to provide more time for core subjects. We recognize that more time is likely needed for the core classes to be successful. It is examples like these that lead us to believe a solid plan for improved learning is not yet in place for the start of the school year. Thank you, Matt and Blythe Danes. There's some referencing after this. Referencing VISD Distance Learning Guide 2021. A large group format must be teacher directed. If you have a question, type it into the online chat. There may be a student designated monitor per teacher direction, and they will collate questions students type in the chat, and we'll ask them at the end of each topic. Referencing updated VISD reopening school plans. The district has planned professional development educators prior to the start of school. The topics include racial equity, culturally responsive teaching, remote instruction, and professional development on technology platforms. AESD and CTSP are providing professional development on our two major platforms, Seesaw and Google Classroom. AESD will continue to provide more levels of learning throughout the year. We are also reallocating staff resources when appropriate to assist in providing professional development to their peers. We'll continue to develop additional courses in the coming year. I think those were just references. And this public comment is Bree Bradrick. Good afternoon. I'm concerned regarding the class lineup for quarters. Classes that piggyback each other, i.e. math and Spanish, needs to be consecutive. Students, especially with 504 IPs, have difficulties with online courses, and continual learning is imperative. Bree Bradrick. That right now concludes the public comment, and I believe we accepted public comments a little bit after 4 as well today. If other public comment came in and was not read this evening, please note that it was that it will be posted to this agenda, and board members will all receive it. And Jody, are you going to be able to bring up our videos? Looks like you're working on it.
De 3 niños, me gustaría que este ciclo escolar que viene nos apoyaran un poco más con tutoría, ya que el ciclo pasado yo siento que mis niños se me retrasaron. Yo siento que ellos necesitan mucha ayuda, y uno de mis niños que va a pasar a 3er grado este año solamente tenía 20 minutos a la semana clase, y para mí era muy poco, no era nada. En casa no es lo mismo, y por eso quisiera que hubiera más pues más apoyo en ese aspecto, que cada uno de mis niños tuviera algunos 2 días en un grupo pequeño con tutores.
Soy mamá de 3 niños de Chicago. Este año escolar para mí fue muy estresante al saber que todo había hecho por línea. Había muchas tareas que mi niña no entendía sobre matemáticas. Me gustaría que hubiera un poco más de apoyo. Al ver que mi niña se estresaba demasiado en sus tareas, hacía que yo me estresara como madre. Espero y este año sea mejor para ellos y vengan mejor explicadas las tareas.
Quisiera que en la escuela hubiera más atención a los niños y que las hojas vinieran más definidas en lo que quieren, en los ejemplos, porque la verdad yo que estuve ayudando a los niños no le entendía la tarea. Porque que también si se pudiera ponerlos en español sería perfecto.
Me encuentro un poco preocupada por la situación y confundida. Cuando comenzó todo esto del COVID, Para mí fue muy difícil por mi idioma enseñar a mi hija a leer inglés. Para mí esto es muy difícil. Se me hacían muy complicadas las tareas de mi hija de 4º grado. Ojalá nos pudieran proporcionar esta ayuda y así poder ayudar a nuestros niños con las tareas y nosotros poder un poco de tiempo a trabajar, porque nos quita demasiado tiempo para nosotros el traducir tareas, el ayudar a nuestros hijos a hacerlas, y pues tengo 3 hijos.
Me gustaría mucho que nos apoyaran con tutores para nuestros niños latinos, ya que para nosotros es muy difícil contratar personas porque no tenemos los recursos como muchas familias aquí en Vashon, en la isla. Para nosotros es muy importante que ellos tengan ayuda con sus tareas, aparte de sus clases en línea. Muchas gracias y espero contar con su apoyo.
Hi, I'm Cindy Hernandez, an organizer of Comunidad Latina de Vashon, an organization ran by and for island Latinos. In addition to working on systemic change, we have provided a bilingual therapist to Chautauqua for 2 years and have recently provided $30,000 to keep the ECAT preschool open, and hoping to achieve a lot more in the school district. In the call to parents, our superintendent stated that he is working with Comunidad to work with Latino families. Though this is not entirely true yet, we don't want to give up. I want to highlight a few successes we have had and what the school can do to change educational equity problems that currently exist between the white and Latino students on Vashon. We are concerned that many Vashon families have already created learning pods that pay tutors and others to deepen their children's learning in this crisis. We feel that our Latino families are not being offered the equal education to Latino youth. We need this to change. At the beginning of the crisis, we organized bilingual, bicultural mental health support, tech support, and organized older Latino mentors to assist elementary school district. This helped, but was not enough. We are concerned there's no concrete plan for Latino students and the barriers they face. We need the district to honestly address these problems in our schooling by doing the following. Materials and directions need to be translated in Spanish. 2-hour daily academic bilingual support per Latino child. Flexibility and cultural knowledge in selection of assignments. A bilingual, bicultural teacher to the Family Link program coordinated with Comunidad, GoKick, and Puentes. Reliable technology. Monthly monitoring the status of educational divide through discussion groups held by Comunidad. Flexible scheduling and the respects family needs. Comunidad and I would be happy to discuss each of these with time, but we feel responsible to pass a plan with equity considerations as an afterthought. Hope we can make a change together for the better of our students and our families. Thank you.
Hola, mi nombre es Diana. Vivo aquí en la isla, tengo 19 años viviendo aquí en la isla. Yo creo que ya me conoce personalmente. He estado siempre en la oficina anteriormente por preguntas acerca de mis hijos o hay cosas que a veces han pasado anteriormente. Aquí está Christopher. Christopher va a ir a la middle school este año, si Dios quiere. Y yo tengo una hija y un hijo ahorita en la high school. El más grande, pues él se tuvo que retirar. Él estaba estudiando el Student Link. Pero en realidad él fue uno de los niños que pues no mucho me lo tomaban en cuenta, siempre por el simple hecho de que él siempre estaba estaba haciendo, él siempre fue muy como muy, lo sentimos también nosotros como padres, igualmente como él como rechazado. Entonces, él siempre, su sueño era estudiar, graduarse, pero lamentablemente, o sea, llegó a un punto que no tuvo la oportunidad. Siempre han sido buenos, tratando de echarle ganas, pero los maestros, no, este mensaje es directamente para el director, el superintendente de la escuela, que tienen que saber manejar bien ya esto. Esto es demasiado y ha sido por muchos años. Y entran personas nuevas o sea, esto no mejora. También nos gustaría que cuando el superintendente entró y se le hizo la entrevista, él dijo que iba a hacer muchas cosas, prometió cosas que la verdad nunca las ha hecho. Entonces, pues nos gustaría que la escuela mejorara, que tuvieran más apoyo los niños latinos, que siempre los niños latinos sean escuchados, que no sean rechazados. También otra de las cosas, nos gustaría que por favor en la high school o ya sea la McMurray, que pongan una persona que les ayude a interpretar directamente, que tengan un intérprete disponible para que puedan ayudar a la gente latina, porque muchas de las veces yo me he topado, a mí me ha tocado, y mi inglés no es muy bueno, sí entiendo mucho, pero a mí me ha tocado resolver mis cosas yo sola, y es bien difícil, y si yo lo veo difícil, ¿cómo lo ha de ver otra persona que no habla ni tantito?
I believe that is all of the public comment for this evening. Jody, do you have anything else? Just checking in. Okay.
All right, thank you, all our contributors on the public comment. I have a noisy airplane going over. Thanks for all our public.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for our public commenters. Thanks, Slade, for reading that, and thanks, Jody, for your technical magic there with the videos. A lot to hear and a lot to be addressed as we go forward. So at this point, we're going to move on to the superintendent's report.
Excellent.
So let's take that.
Yeah, thank you. To open my superintendent report, I humbly make a land acknowledgement this evening. I would like to recognize and acknowledge the indigenous people of this land, the Puyallup Tribe of Indians. Today, we pay respect to the Puyallup Tribe of Indians and to their elders, past, present, and emerging. One of the exciting things that we get to do this evening that we'll get to do in a larger way at the opening of our schools is to announce the Doors of Opportunity Award has been given to Lisa Syra, who, if you see on your screen, I see her right next to me, so I'm going to point to her right now and give her a round of applause. If folks are joining us and they don't know, I'll just share a little bit about Lisa. I came on to the district a couple years ago, and I was dumbfounded at the kind of food services that we were providing students and specifically food from scratch. And if you don't know what that means, it means home cooking. And so Lisa is a master chef, and her staff are also master chefs and do wonders for her. And I know that when she does accept this award, she's probably not going to want to accept it, first of all, and give it to her team instead. And it's that humility and that humbleness about her that really highlights, gosh, just her servant. You know, I learned from her actually about servant leadership, and so she models it every day. And the food services program that got up and running right when we closed down was nothing short of a miracle. And I think there isn't anyone who would not agree with me. So we'll talk more about the doors of opportunity and hear from Lisa, which I know she's looking forward to sharing you know, with our staff at the beginning of school. But I look forward to that. But I would like to just take that moment tonight and recognize her, and congratulations, Lisa. You deserve it completely. So I don't really have any other announcements. Obviously, we have a pretty packed agenda tonight, but I do have some upcoming, just that one upcoming event. That's our next board meeting on the 27th. And I would like to remind the board that we're going to be meeting 5:30 to 6:30 in front of the high school to do a facilities walk. And during that time, what we'll most likely be visiting and looking at is the new paint and the progress at the high school, the new playground equipment at Link, the new fence at the bus barn, and the progress that we've been making on our new facilities. So across the bus barn, that project, it's going up super fast. So I'm hoping that we can do that facilities tour from 5:30 to 6:30. And Brandy and Kevin and Matt, I'm sure are gonna lead that tour. And then hopefully there'll be some time right after that to do some signing, because there's lots of things that we haven't signed over the last couple months. So we need to make sure that happens. And then I would ask the board planning calendar, just the yearly calendar that we look at, is going to be presented at that meeting. And part of that is scheduling our board site visits. Those will look a little differently, but I do want to continue that practice of board members signing up and spending time with leadership and students and faculty. You know, the board signs up for twice a year, so they get to the buildings a couple times, able to ask questions and meet with principals. It's a great time. So hopefully bring your calendars and we can get that scheduled at the time and get those dates inked for our leaders. So that is all my upcoming events for now.
Okay, so that gives us time for some board member remarks. And there's so many people, I don't even see my board members, so I'll just have to pick you out one by one. So why don't we start with Zabet?
All I have to say, I want to keep it brief because we've got a lot to talk about. All I want to say is, Lisa Syra, you are fantastic, and we adore you, and I know that we are so lucky to have you. So yay for you.
Yep, you're here. Toby?
Well, no matter what the calendar looks like or the schedule that we adopt, there's plenty of families that need the additional support that straight online learning doesn't provide. The food service that we were able to provide to families across the island last spring was phenomenal, and an example of the type of activities that I'd like to see us prioritize, you know, including other suggestions that were brought up in public comment, such as the opportunity to gather with different communities and provide the extra support, so that we really want every student to be successful and feel like they belong in the online environment as they would in school. And I have confidence we can do that.
Thanks, Toby. Bob?
I have nothing to add.
Okay. Spring? Do you have Spring still on? So maybe she had to check out for a minute. I'm just gonna add my congratulations to Lisa and her entire team again. Oh, I'm getting some pings from Spring maybe. Oh, her computer just died, so she's gonna work on getting back in. So aside from congratulating Lisa and her entire team, for well-deserved doors of opportunity. Just want to acknowledge that all the concerns we heard in the public comment, a lot of assumptions, and there are a lot of questions remaining. And just want you to understand that we hear your concerns and we share your concerns, and we're continuing to rely on our teaching staff and our administrative staff to help lead us to the best possible solution for what we think we can accomplish with our resources. There's been a lot of thought put into this, and I think as we go forward in the meeting tonight and you hear from each individual, you're going to hear some detail about that. The thinking that went into some of these decisions, so hopefully we'll have a better understanding at the end of the board meeting that addresses at least some of the concerns that we've heard through the public comment phase. So please bear with us, and thanks for attending the meeting. And I think we're just going to go ahead and, with no further ado, move on to the reopening of schools resolution that Slade's going to present.
Let me unmute. Thank you, board, and I'd also like to echo the sentiments from Toby and Reagan. You know, there are a lot of details and a lot of new information for parents, and this isn't our normal process in processing information, and so I would agree that communication has been a significant challenge, and you know, availability of stakeholders and people to engage in the planning process in a timely way, and in order to get information to parents so that we would have a stronger vetting process, coupled with the deadline of submitting our resolution and opening plan to OSPI by Monday, necessitates some of the urgency and some of the quickness in which you see proposals being made. But one thing I heard in our session from Danny is, and then that I would just again like to emphasize, we are not we are not opposed to learning and gathering feedback and making changes when we see the changes are necessary. And so we're going to continue to monitor and plan more supports. I appreciate Comunidad Latina. You know, I know that we have not had the kind of relationship that I would like, and so I'm hoping to strengthen that. And there has been communication the last couple of weeks that I'm looking forward to following up with and hopefully meeting with them soon. So much appreciated, just all the comments. That's really what I wanted to say, and thank you for engaging, because it's kind of like an act of voting, right? We want to make sure that you're heard and you made your voices loud and clear. Tonight there are 5 documents. I just want to point to them for the public, not that we're going to go through them. The most important document is the resolution 785. And that document really spells out that we are, you know, in a trying time and a high rate of disease activity. And the document that you see this evening, I just want to point out, has some revisions in it from the first reading, and I have added that paragraphs that indicate that that I've recommended essentially moving to a completely online model, and that I'll be recommending to the Vashon Island School District that we start the school year remotely. So that is new pieces in the resolution that I did want the public to note. So the resolution states that we are approving a plan that meets the health requirements, the statutory ed requirements, and the additional expectations. All of those are represented in the OSPI template, which has 24 required questions, and that template is attached as an Appendix D in our updated VISD reopening schools plan. And so I don't anticipate that we're going to be going through line by line through the reopening template. I know the board has read through the template and understands, and if they would like to ask any questions tonight before voting on the resolution. So the resolution is definitely attached or aligned with that reopening template. The template has the 24 questions. Essentially, that is what the board is approving this evening. So the other documents that you see are the updated Vashon reopening schools plan, what we've seen, pardon me, before, which is the planning guide. We recently saw a decision tree around school closure come out from the state. And then the initial fall guide, the fall health guidance, which has also been updated. So at any point, go ahead.
As a point of clarity, every school district is passing a similar resolution, correct?
Correct. Similar in that, yes, all 295 school districts are required to pass a resolution connected to the OSPI template of the 24 requirements. So that is, if that's a point of clarity, if that helps, yes. And so this evening, part of that template obviously addresses the health requirements, the statutory ed, and the additional expectations. And our directors are here this evening not only to give a brief, and when I say brief, probably 3 to 5 minutes, kind of highlights are some of the most important details. I know that there's probably, each person has probably 50 details that they could share, and we can have our own board meeting on that. But I know that, but this is a great opportunity for board to ask questions of our directors, and then we are ending the presentations per se with our principals who are online and have already presented information around the school plans. I know that in the work session, I know there's more public who have joined us in the meeting, and so we'll probably repeat some information, and there may be questions since the work session that may come up for them as well. So I appreciate all of our directors being here this evening. They may have had something recently come up, and if that's the case and they're not on the line or had a technical difficulty, I will try to answer any questions, or there'll probably somebody on the line who would be able to answer those questions. But I haven't called roll and won't be doing so. But I'd first like to welcome Matt Sullivan, who's our Executive Director of Business Operations, who can share with you. And then we'll just, after that, we'll just move to Amy and Sarah and Kevin and so forth.
Hello all, it's good to see you. Since March, operations has been planning, preparing for, and working on the reopening, obviously beginning of school, August 31st. As you know, our mission and operation has always been to serve and support the academic side of the house through the business office, our transportation, through our contract per student, food service, our capital projects, risk management, of course, facilities. We've been continually meeting with local, state, and federal stakeholders and agencies in support of that district-wide reopening effort, whether that be financial support, tangible physical support, and/or kind of directive legal and administrative support. Throughout the different departments and divisions, we've been on webinars and trainings, way too many to count, Q&A sessions, phone calls, in-person and online Zoom and Google meetings.
What's happening and if I have a job.
With staff, teachers, and principals. But a lot of time has also been spent with external partners, everything from our meetings with FEMA to PSESD to OSPI. Vashon Be Prepared, who I want to call out, has been of immense help to us, and they've been there at every corner, every turn. King County, fellow local school districts we've been meeting with, the State Auditor's Office, Vashon Island Fire and Rescue, of course, First Student Inc., King County Assessor's Office, the Washington Schools Risk Management Pool, which of course is our insurance provider, Piper Sandler, our bond agent, and then also the Puget Sound Workers' Compensation Trust, who's been there through different trainings for different members of our team and staff. Lastly, of course, operations. We've been meeting and physically working throughout the summer to prepare for school reopening. And to say at least, it's not been an easy summer, but we feel we've done a really solid job. If I may, I am truly thankful for the team and the staff, in particular, Kevin Dickerson in facilities, and of course, Lisa Syra, as you know, the incredible job that she has done, but also our managers in the business office, Tiffany Rice and Kay Adams, and then Brandon Case over with First Student. He's been there also helping us out as if he is a direct member of the team. I won't take any more time or information away from the rest of my staff, so thank you.
Are there any questions for Matt from the board?
No questions, but God, thanks, Matt. There's a huge list of people that you've been working with. Wow.
You're welcome.
Wow.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
This is Bob. I have a question. I think it's a friendly amendment. Could you go back to the resolution, Jody? I'm wondering, and just for the sake of, clarity with the legislative record, that at the first reference to the planning guide, could we insert the language included as attachment 1 and then attach it? Again, my purpose here is so that this resolution and its attachments remain together for all time, and so that there's clarity for us all about what it is that we are approving with this resolution. Because there are, as I think, there were a bunch of attachments. There was a decision. There were like 7 attachments to the agenda item. The decision tree was among them, and the reopening OSDI reopening school planning guide. We're not approving them. We are approving some subset of those 7 documents. So I would like to reference them explicitly in the resolution, if that's okay with everybody.
I think I get where you're going, Bob, but the Vashon reopening plan and the OSPI appendix are now compiled into one document, with the appendix being the only appendix, I believe.
Just, and I don't have a problem with that. Just, I would like to make explicit reference in the resolution
To the Vashon reopening plan and appendix.
Yes. Because I have one thing I've noticed throughout, I think there's a whole lot of confusion in the community and of late among the board about what it is we're voting on tonight. We're not voting on quarters. We're not voting on a whole bunch of things. And so I sense the community would benefit from knowing that. And
well, maybe Slade can help me out here, but I think if we attach the Vashon reopening plan, which we are not voting on, and the OSPI amendment, which we are voting on, to this amendment, to this resolution, then we'll be creating that confusion.
The purpose.
I think we can put that attachment that I put that actually together because it's not inappropriate to have that that together. I don't think so.
Okay. Well, then that's not a problem. We can reference it then.
Yeah, we can reference it. Right after it says adopts its reopening plan, and we can put in parentheses there.
Just a comma attached as attachment 1 here to close comma.
Great.
Yeah. Okay.
For record archival, that makes sense.
And just for the community's benefit, I think my sense is that there has been there's a whole lot of lack of understanding about, again, what it is the board is approving tonight, and hence what the community no longer has a chance to affect. But I think one commenter used the Latin term fait accompli. Some of this, certainly what we're doing tonight, is not a fait accompli. And I just want to be clear for everyone that there is much to be worked out. But the only thing that as my understanding, again, if I could be corrected here, was we are approving the OSTI template. That template Slade has referred to, which is a form doc and a good form doc. And then we are also approving the hybrid model that we have agreed to use. I'm sorry, the 100% remote model, which we have agreed to use when we open school. We are not approving anything else in a resolution, if I understand that correctly.
And we can make that as an attachment.
Okay, good.
Not to be too agenda driven, because you know I'm not, but were we going to hear everybody, from all the directors, and then talk about the plan?
We are. I think we just took a step back for clarity.
Okay.
But just to be clear here, and this has been something.
Right. No, I appreciate it, because I think it is really important to make that clear, that what we're voting on versus what we talked about before, sort of the meat of, anyway. So
I think we have created a lot of confusion, probably most notably among me, when we say we should be clear in our nomenclature. We are not approving the plan for soup to nuts about how we are going to instruct our children this coming year. And I think the community that has not been clearly differentiated for the community. And
right. I was just wondering, sorry, Bob, I was just wondering, because I thought that we were going to hear from all the directors and then talk about what everybody.
I just want to be clear that the term.
You're just excited. You're just excited to clarify that.
No, my brain is addled and old. So
right.
Thank you. I'm not disagreeing with that.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah. So next, Amy.
Hi. This has been a fascinating summer. It has been a summer of learning. Looking at Lisa, I'm guessing you can't hear me very well. Most recently, obviously, we've been doing, all of the typical activities and work that we normally do over the summer and getting ready for a school year. This year has been somewhat different. The focus has been not only on just getting up and running for the year, but also on how to do it in a way that is safe for our staff and for our students. Specifically in HR, we've been focused on working with the principals and our bargaining units and our instructional bargaining units to develop MOUs around what the expectations are for staff under the different learning models, what staff health and safety looks like, what all of the different intersecting leaves look like, and under what conditions those are available, what remote assignments look like and how they're assigned. So a whole scope of things that we're working on with our collective bargaining units, and actually having really productive conversations. We had our second round of talks today, and I think we've made some really significant progress. We anticipate wrapping things up hopefully early next week. Also have been working on protocols for building access for occupying spaces safely. What does that look like? How many people in what areas? What is appropriate mask usage? What does working alone actually mean? And then kind of this overarching challenge of looking at directives from the federal government, from the state government, from various health organizations, gubernatorial proclamations, different types of leave, and trying to identify the intersection of all of those different categories and figure out how to make the resources that are available during COVID work seamlessly for our staff. We have identified that approximately 15% of our staff across all categories of employees actually do, and I should say self-identify as being in a high-risk category, which means that potentially when we do move back to a more in-person model, we have a significant number of staff who, for health reasons, may not be able to be in the buildings, and we're having to work through the implications of that as well. Are there any questions?
Thanks.
I guess my question has more to do, I don't know, it's really, maybe it's not your question, but it has to do with the preparation of teachers to be able to be effective in the online model and what kind of training they will be getting or have been getting. A lot of the public comment voiced that concern, and I guess I myself would like some more detail about that, whether it's you or someone else coming up in the lineup.
I think that probably Stephanie is going to be a really good resource for specific information around that. Slade, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. She and I can fill in.
Okay.
Probably John too a little bit.
We've been focused more on the mandatory trainings and how we're going to deliver those with everybody in a remote environment.
Sure. Sure. So as far as our capacity to be back in the buildings, that remains to be seen based on how the disease progresses as well, obviously.
Right.
And I think I think some of what Slade shared, some of the board or all the board members offline about the public health view that Vashon is not an island as much as we like to think we're an island. The public health definitely considers us part of the larger community, and due to tourism and commuting students and commuting staff, we can't really say that we just have 11 cases and go to more open formats. So the fact that we're going to be online, it helps our capacity at the beginning of this thing while we see how it evolves. Because we do have a challenge with the infection rate in the entire community, and Vashon is seen as part of the larger community. And I think where I was trying to go with this was just to recognize that we do want to keep our staff safe. We do want to have enough staff to teach kids when and if it's safe for kids to come back to the buildings. And that's all part of the planning process that we're trying to manage in real time here. But without knowing what COVID's going to do, kind of hard to pinpoint.
Yeah.
Thank you, Amy. I'd also like to welcome Sarah Day. And Sarah Day's been working every day, 24/7, basically, with us. And Sarah, I'll let you share what's happening, kind of, or updates on health.
Yeah, thank you, Slade. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yes, I've been a busy little bee. School nurses have been meeting statewide in a Zoom meeting with public health contacts to really help guide us, because this has been a just ever-changing, difficult to comprehend situation. So, you know, what we have worked up, you guys have a draft of our COVID illness isolation and quarantine plan there when we do go back to in-person learning, how that is going to work. And part of that is actually going to work now should we have a staff member come down with COVID symptoms or actually being diagnosed with COVID-19. We'll be screening staff before they come into the building, hopefully know their whereabouts. And we found out from public health that actually Nurse Ann and I are going to have to be doing the contact tracing of those cases, because they are way over capacity with Seattle King County Public Health right now. So we've been busy working on that, working on the app, and John Stanton will talk to you a little bit more about an app that staff and students will complete prior to entering the building. PPE, which is personal protective equipment, has been another huge topic. We're hoping to get a big order in of personal protective equipment for staff. And then, of course, training of everybody about how to use this equipment, how to keep safe. So lots going on and lots changing. Any questions?
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you for your hard work.
I know, I think we're gonna, every time we're gonna hear someone else be like, oh my gosh. Kevin, welcome.
Hello, all. Just want to, can you hear me clearly? Everything's good?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, you're good.
I just want to say thank you to everyone for all their support, knowing that these are challenging times, but know that the facilities team is poised to facilitate support of teaching and learning throughout the district. And, you know, it's been kind of interesting since COVID hit for us, having to remain flexible, not being able to really keep our finger on the pulse and keep things moving in the way that we typically do. This summer, we've continued to prioritize things in the fashion of getting school ready for reopening, not knowing what that mandate was going to be. And still not clearly knowing how and the wins and the wets for our group. But all three facilities are, you know, pretty much right on schedule. Chautauqua is the X factor. We had a little bit of incident earlier in the summer, but we are poised to have the facility ready to go by the 31st for sure. In addition to all the fun capital projects, we've also been working on some CTE projects in the background, revamping the jewelry jewelry room. We also we're in the process of doing some work also in the cooking class at McMurray. And then also doing some work in the shop class at the high school as well. Before I go to questions, I also want to commend Lisa Syra for her award. Thank you, Lisa, for all that you do. And thank you for the resources that you provide to the team. And then also thanks to the team for all the work that they've done and continue to do, and the flexibility that they've shown and have. And thank you. And just for that, I've been collaborating with all the other leaders and community members as well, and trying to provide a safe environment for everyone to return to. Questions?
Not so much a question, but I did drive by the high school the other day and the bus yard and took a quick glance at the new maintenance building, and everything looks nice. I think I see some new paint on the high school. Is that right?
That is correct.
And then on the chain link around the bus barn, it's no longer institutional gray and rust. So I think it's a really nice facelift, and thank your team for those improvements over the course of the summer.
Yes, thank you. And I would like to, for those, I would definitely like to give a shout out to Brandy and Matt for their efforts in making it all happen. So thank you.
Let's not forget the taxpayers.
And yes, in the community, yes. These were all, you know, part of the bond project. So except for the paint, but yes, still moving forward with delivering to the community.
And the paint was a freebie because it was a redo.
Yeah, yes.
Thanks, Kevin.
I just
Thanks,
wish
Kevin.
we could get all the kids in the building to see your beautiful
I
work,
know.
Kevin.
I know.
Summer. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
So you may not know, but Jody Burwell is now our newly appointed Child Care Services Coordinator Liaison for the district.
Boy.
Of districts are no longer going to be responsible or mandated as they were when we first closed down to provide childcare for even essential workers. And so, but it is part of our OSPI template that we engage and try to ensure as much as possible that people are connected to child care services. So this will be Jody's first update in that new role. Thank you, Jody.
Hello, everybody. So as everyone, most of you know, we have a incredible Chautauqua site Vashon Kids child care service. And we've been fortunate to hear the kids outside and successfully coming in every day and enjoying themselves and having a great time. So childcare is possible. We have a few other smaller childcares that have either closed temporarily or have really shifted to a really small group. So we have some waitlisting opportunities, and we're just searching for our small little pockets of childcare. So I have a list that's ongoing, and we hope to provide that to our families when they need it. And I just want to say thanks to everybody. It's kind of like whenever you see anyone in the parking lot at the office, it's just like seeing a survivor out there. So I just appreciate everyone and all the great work that we're keeping things moving forward. So just want to shout out to everybody.
Thanks, Jody.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jody.
Yes, absolutely. Lisa, welcome. Can you share some what's happening with food services right now?
Hi, Slade. Thank you, and thank you all for your well wishes. When I first saw that, I was sort of like, what? A little overwhelming. And then my second thought was, oh my God, I have to give a speech. I will provide a video, I guess, for the 21st, which I'll be happy to do. So thank you all. This program has been an incredible journey, and yeah, this spring was pretty crazy and but amazing too, in that way that I felt community like I've never felt before, and people just jumped up and helped and pitched in, and we did an amazing thing. And I've been working for the food bank this summer, providing the summer picnics in the park at the school, and that continuity has been really, really important. And so on that note, I just, I'm sorry to see it leave and then start the new year. We were hoping that the government would maybe make it a little easier for us, but we're going back to the National School Lunch and Breakfast Program. And with that brings a little bit of awkwardness. We can't afford it to adults and for children who are not enrolled in the school. So I'll just go over some bullet points of sort of the nuts and bolts of what this will look like. And it's basically like spring, only it's only for students that are enrolled in the Vashon Island School District. For remote learning, the pickups for lunch and breakfast will be at the high school. And also we will have 3 food service vans going out to the island, just like we did in the spring. But we will be collecting students' names and account numbers so that we can, capture that for the district. The meals will be grab and go, just like in the spring, although I am going to have a menu online and it will be expanded. We really did sandwiches and whatnot, but we're going to go back to doing, more of the fun stuff like Buddha bowls and salads and, a little bit more expanded. So I will have that menu online, and students and staff can see that every day. I just want to reiterate that it's for all students, not just free and reduced. So we really want everybody to know that if they would like to be provided with a breakfast and a lunch, we'll be doing that. If and when we are in person, we will be delivering the lunch and breakfast to the classrooms. And with that, we know that there could be some changes, but, and all of this is actually subject to change, just depending on how many students we get to participate in the program. Did I leave anything out? Any questions?
Yeah, Lisa, I have a question. For kids who are buying regular meals, when you that's what you're saying is so that when my student is going to get, because he clearly prefers your food to mine. So when he gets your lunches, I will still be charged for your lunches. Is that correct?
Your student's account will be charged for lunch.
Okay, I just want to make that clear for everyone. Right. Okay, great, good. But I can't get your lunches?
You can get our lunches. Staff too. It's basically like before the pandemic. It's just remote.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Totally, perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, bravo. Say hi to Bruce.
I will.
Okay. Next, I'd like to welcome John Stanton. I'm not sure if I sent out just an information page to you about all the projects he has going. So I'm going to let him share it because it's longer than it's the longest list I think maybe out of all of us. So, but thank you, John, for coming tonight.
Thank you. Great. Hope everyone can hear me okay.
Yes.
Great, super. So I'm just going to sort of give you an idea of what we've been up to, but obviously much of what we've been up to is preparing for the start of school in an online capacity, while simultaneously trying to build up the infrastructure for an in-person return when that moment comes. So to that end, we've been working with Rebecca and John, the principals at Chautauqua School, to bring a new learning management system online for our K-5 learners. That tool's called Seesaw. It's been adopted widely across the region. And we've been working at the same time with Stephanie Spencer to arrange some professional development. And as I understand it, Rebecca has already signed up, or her teachers have already signed up for the classes that are being offered. And so they're getting ready to take some formal instruction on this new system. We think it's going to be pretty good. We have also upgraded our instance of G Suite for Education to the Enterprise Edition, and that is going to bring a lot of capacity to that system, both in the way that we conduct the Google Meets, but also in things like online grading, automatic creation of classes, and hopefully an ability to do grading from Google Classroom directly back into our Skyward grading system. It's a work in progress. It's ambitious, but we're hoping we can get there. We've also upgraded our online portal, which is called Clever, and it's intended to be our one-stop shop for students and staff. And so this fall, we'll be encouraging all school members to start their day at the portal and then carry on from there. And the advantage of the portal for us is it will allow all of the sites that we use to be logged into seamlessly. That is, a student will log in once and then everything else becomes available to them. And it's a real advantage in terms of kids trying to remember passwords and things like that, and adults as well. As I mentioned, in conjunction with Stephanie Spencer, we are developing a set of resources for students, staff, and family. And we've got a website up and running, a section of our website that's going to be dedicated to each of those groups and try to be a clearinghouse for information. And that URL will be vashonsd.org/help. So each of the constituencies that we serve will have a section on that site, and over the course of the weeks and months that are coming, we'll be adding more material to those sites and organizing it, and hopefully helping to answer people's questions and support them. And I guess another important thing I want to tell you about is yes.
I'm sorry, John. I was scanning my notes. So forgive me if you're planning on touching on either of these in the future. Will this, as a help, I think I love the help idea. Is this going to be staffed by a human being, or is it
So it's
self-serve?
yeah, go ahead. Yeah, so there's sort of two aspects to it. One is sort of an online tool that is basically resources and information, videos, things like that. We also will have a parent-student help desk that will be staffed and triaged by people. And so we're in the process of putting that in place. It's not there now. So if you went there right now, you would not see that help desk. By the time school starts, there'll be a ticketing system where people can go and enter in the information that they want to share. That will be read basically immediately by a staff member who will either get back in contact with them or triage that that request, up into higher levels of tech support, if you will, depending on the nature of the request.
Will there be bilingual support?
Huh, that's a good question. I'll have to go back and look at that. I can't give you an answer yet.
That's just something I think it would be a nice touch.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I have to say that we've been relying in a lot of ways on our partners in the community to do so. Comunidad has been out in our community working with the families that, for example, requested hotspots and helping them set that up. And so that's been a huge help to us, and we will certainly make sure that the resources we bring to bear are bilingual.
Which gives me a nice little opening to my second question. Do we have data on the internet access of our population? I mean, do we know we have 100% of our population with high-speed internet access or internet access? Can we? I'm just curious to know what we know about our customers.
Right. So the question is, do we have gaps in our coverage for our students, I think. And so the short answer is, in the spring, we think that we did respond to every family that needed a connectivity by providing them with a cellular hotspot. Those hotspots work. Sometimes they work better in some places than others. That's the nature of cell service on Vashon. We've also increased our capacity this summer so that we can serve more families if that's required. We've also been working to help connect families with low-cost internet service on Vashon, both through Comcast and CenturyLink. That service generally runs about $10 a month and is more reliable in some ways than cellular service. And finally, we learned yesterday from OSPI that the state has made a significant amount of funds available to connect 60,000 Washingtonians to high-speed internet. And so as soon as that information comes to our school district, we'll be acting on that.
So do you think and I don't want to put you in a bad spot, do you think when school opens that we will have 100% of our student population with internet access that enables them to do what they need to do to succeed in school?
Yeah, I can't answer that directly, but I can tell you what we've done to try to achieve that. So as parents come back to school and update their Skyward family access settings, or if they enroll their students for the first time, one of the questions that we ask every student and every family is, do you have internet access at home? And then we have also taken the list of families that came to us in the spring and distributed that back to our principals so that we can pre-connect, if you will, those families back with service again. And so those are the two steps that we are taking sort of ahead of the school year to see if we can get families connected. Tomorrow or very soon, we'll also be sending out an alert over K-12 alerts in a bilingual fashion that encourages families that need that connectivity to contact us.
I know this. I think this is I can speak for everybody, but I would suspect this is a high priority. And to the extent, if you could keep the board apprised of gaps, I would love to know. Right? If there are significant gaps, then I would love to know about it.
Yes, will do.
Okay, shall I continue, or you guys want to move on? I can go either way.
Please continue.
Yes.
Okay, very, very good. Okay, so sort of one of the sort of things that came out of generous support by Vashon voters of the maintenance and technology levy was funded our ability to go to a one-to-one model for grades 6 through 12 in our school district. So starting this school year, every student in grades 6 to 12 receive a Chromebook to take home with them, and they will use that throughout their tenure at the school district. And when we return to in-person, they will keep those Chromebooks with them. One of the driving forces behind that one-to-one decision was our concern that shared Chromebooks would not be appropriate even in sort of a stage 3, stage 4 environment. And so we're acting to make sure that every family has a Chromebook at home. In grades K through 5, we will continue our loan program with the expectation that when we come back to an in-person environment, Chromebooks will be assigned one-to-one to students within the school's context. So it's a little bit different in K5, but essentially we're acting to make sure that all of our students have a way to connect to the internet, a platform to use it with. The next thing I was going to talk about was hotspot distribution, and I'll say a little bit more about that, just to say that, you know, we've pre-identified our constituents from last year. We're pulling our families this year, and we've increased our capacity significantly. And so we feel fairly confident that we could serve the families that come forward on Vashon. And I feel like we're in a pretty decent spot on that. And I'm happy that we were able to get this started early. There are many districts out there that are still trying to figure out how to get hotspots and how to connect their families. So I think we're in a good situation in that regard. We have been bringing many of our forms into some sort of regularity and online, and updating our forms and providing ways for families in bilingual manner to get hotspots and things like that, and support. We've also been working on curriculum integration. We have now more than ever, online sort of learning platforms are taking center stage. So every one of the texts that we adopt typically comes with an e-component. And this year, it's really going to matter that those be available to all of our students. And so it's been taking a lot of time to bring these platforms online and get them rostered and get the classes aligned and all the rest of that. And Thane Gill, who's our application developer network administrator, has literally been working 7 days a week on that task, trying to make sure that everything is ready to go when the students return. So my hat's off to him.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot in front of your boss and the rest of the board. Do you have the resources you need for people?
So you mean to start school, I will say that we are very, very busy. I have the capacity to bring on more staff, more temporary staff if I need to do that. So for example, one of the things we're preparing for in addition to the online start is the fact that some of our teachers will be back in the buildings using their classrooms as a learning hub. The internet connectivity in the building is typically far better than anything else on Vashon. And of course, we also have all of the tools that a teacher gets in a classroom. And so I'm going to have to prepare for both things, our department at once. And so it may be that I'm going to take some of my discretionary funding and use it to hire some help getting those classrooms back in order. So while I can't say that we have enough folks to do everything we want to do, if push comes to shove and we're in a pinch, I think I can get some people to help me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so moving right along, one of the things that we're working on with Sarah Day, the school nurse, is an attestation tool. It's, I think, a new word invented in the English language. And that tool is going to be used by our staff and our students eventually to report their health condition before coming into the school building. And then depending on the responses that they give us, maybe be warned off coming in the building and given a set of steps to take if some of the signs that they return aren't optimal, I guess you'd say. That's been once again developed by Thane Gill, and the tool is we're using the tool right now. Very soon, perhaps tomorrow, that tool will start to be used by our administrative tasks, our administrative folks. And once we're confident that this is a solid online platform, we will roll it out to our staff members. One of the features of this tool, beyond the reporting mechanisms that we've built, is that when students return, it will allow us to scan students' IDs at the door and see if they have made an attestation. And if they have not, then Sarah will take over and do an on-the-spot check. But we should be in a position to know every single day that every single student and their family has made a report to the school district. And so that's been, it's been a very interesting process trying to spin that up in the 3 weeks that we've had to learn that we have to do this. So
John,
been a bit, yes.
did you just say that Thane created that?
Thane Gill wrote this software. If you could see it, you would be dumbfounded. He is an amazing talent. He's an amazing asset to my department, and everyone in my department has an important role to play, and they're all awesome. And Thane is a superstar.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Way to go, Vashon high school education. Right?
Yes, right. Vashon alum.
Will staff be using the
take it that,
as well?
Yes, the staff will use it as well. Yep.
And I take it that's required by public health, make the daily attestations.
Yes, that's my understanding. I have to say that I don't know the ins and outs of the public health stuff like Sarah does, but my understanding is that we all need to attest daily. Okay, moving along. We are also working with Lisa Syra to allow for touchless lunch purchases. So when our students do come back, we want to have a way that they can purchase lunches without having to, of course, handle cash or use a PIN code system. And so our goal is that the same barcode that will get them in the door will also allow them to purchase a lunch without having to touch any of the equipment. And we're hoping that will be a more sanitary way to proceed. Ooh. This summer, we upgraded all of the networking equipment at McMurray Middle School. So with the next generation of network switching and wireless equipment, and that was able to be done thanks to both the technology levy and also the E-rate funds, which the government makes available and we apply for every year. And we were successful last year in securing funds and used that to purchase the networking gear that went in this summer. So McMurray is in a very good place for when the students do come back in person. We also upgraded all the security cameras across the district with our next generation system, which is far easier to use and it has essentially infinite capacity with all sorts of bells and whistles that you might expect, notifications and motion detection and all the rest of that. We also moved our telephone system to a set of redundant trunks, which makes it much more reliable. So although our system was, I would say, reasonably reliable in the past, it's doubly reliable now, and we feel pretty satisfied with that project. I think that, well, I guess I'll just close by saying that it's been a wild ride. Every year, starting school is one of the biggest things that we do, and for us, starting school is like early August, and it ends sometime in October. And this year, this will be the third time we've started school. We started school last year. We started school once again in March, if you will, and we're starting school now in October. And we've worked hard to provide support for people, and we hope we've done a good job. And our morale is high. We're a little bit tired, but we think we're going to make it to the start of the school year at least. Any questions?
That's a phenomenal list, John. That's really a lot of ground to cover in a very short amount of time. And kudos to you and your team. I'm sure our families are going to benefit from all the work that you've put into establishing the connectivity in the platform. I just had one question going back to the one-on-one Chromebooks.
Yes.
Just a mom question. Does a student need to have a Vashon School District Chromebook? Or if they have their own Chromebook or their own PC, is there something special about the Chromebooks from the school district, or is it's just,
Well, there are a
they
couple
just make
things
it easy?
special. So one is that the Chrome platform itself is the one that we've standardized in the district. So when we provide support and when we talk about what the user experience is like, we're well aware of what that's like in the Chrome OS experience. So there's a reason just from a usability and support standpoint for families to gravitate in that direction. The Chromebooks that we use also, which are under our control, come sort of pre-loaded, if you will, with all of the tools that our students use. And that includes the standardized testing tools that we'll use later in the year. And so there is a lot of advantage to our families using the tools that we provide. It's not, we won't require it, certainly, if they don't wish to, but I would recommend it. And I guess the last thing to say, Danny may be able to speak to this more fully, but when we get it back into the in-person environment, I think we do put an emphasis on everyone using the platform provided by the school. So what we would prefer not to have is, one student with a very sort of nice laptop and another student who's got nothing. And so to sort of make that feel more equitable, I believe that the schools have decided that we'll use our tools when we're within the building.
Okay. Well, I think that's good for parents to know that although your child may have their own device, that they should still be picking up the school's Chromebook, because we've been able to provide one for every student.
That's right.
Yeah, John, thank you.
Anybody else?
For being here this evening. I know we've spent some, you spent some time this evening, but distance learning, that's where you've been living the last 24/7 for
That's right.
So I'll just say, on behalf of myself and the admin team and the district office team, huge shout out to you, Thane, as well, and thank you for being here tonight too. So.
Yeah, you're welcome. And we should just mention that Jerry and Lauren are indispensable as well.
Yes,
they have their role to play, and they're awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, you have like a team of all-stars for sure.
We do. Yep.
Good job. You're the tip of the spear, bro.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I'm grateful to the community supporting the CapTech levy.
Yes, absolutely.
For the ongoing work. It's never been as important as it is now that we get this right for all the families, and so
it's a real lifesaver.
Yeah, it's good to hear how you're using it in detail.
Yeah. Thanks, Toby, for underlining that. For sure.
Oh, not all districts have the same level of community support, and it's hard enough when you have resources. But wow, so we don't take that for granted.
It's like if any one of those components were taken out, our staff and our students' experience would be that much more difficult. So
yeah.
Stephanie, welcome to the meeting. I saw you on a couple pages over there, but welcome to the meeting and thanks for coming tonight.
Thanks. All I have to say is, John, I will see your list and raise it by half. I'm just kidding. Hey, I do want to just shout out kudos to the team. You'll hear some overlaps in my work with a lot of different folks. They've taken this work very seriously, and I want to thank our community. I know it isn't always readily apparent that we're listening, but we really are. So we appreciate that feedback. And what I appreciate about our team is that they take this work very seriously and have approached it in a very serious way with as much feedback as they have and as much process as they can, but they do it with humor. It's kind of amazing that we've been able to kind of stay together and work through this without getting on each other's nerves, because we've had lots of Zoom meets and phone calls and all sorts of things going on. So I'll start first. I just want to say, first and foremost, my first day back, I was able to sit down with Kay Adams from our finance department. We were able to get our CARES grant submitted. It was approved, and knowing Kay, I'm sure she's already fully claimed every single dollar that we received on that grant. So that was done and taken care of beginning of August. Hopefully it'll come through with some more money for us. I've since last spring and all through summer, and especially as we're gearing up towards school, I've been networking with our teachers to make sure that we have all of our instructional materials aligned for not just our new adoptions, but also anything that we had previously, looking to see what we can acquire that has online tools. And I couldn't do that without the support of Jody Burwell. She's just phenomenal in terms of organizing all of that and getting orders put in and coordinating with me on all of those purchases. Um, Along with that, I've been working with Catherine Coleman. We've been having preliminary conversations, one, just to make sure that we can continue forward with our work on universal design. Even though we're in a remote setting, it seems like a perfect opportunity to really work and push our staff towards that direction. A lot of teachers already do that, but we do want that to become the norm in our district. Also working with her on just instructional tools, making sure that our staff are in the special education department have all of the tools and resources that they need to work with our students. We've got a meeting set up now that Sarah Hamill's coming back. We've got some meetings set up with middle school and elementary she was hired as our K-8 English Language Learner Services Director, and also she'll be our lead teacher on Highly Capable for K-8. So we'll be having those conversations on how we're going to do our outreach to our students with English language learning needs, and that will continue up until we launch. And I imagine some of our preliminary conversation is how do we do outreach in our community, and how do we take a look at the staff that we have available and how we might be able to utilize staff to help do more family outreach. Let's see, what else we got going on? I've done a complete redesign of the family resource site, and I have another meeting with John and Thane tomorrow to run through both all of our instructional materials, as John already mentioned, but also that family resource site to make sure that the language that I'm using to connect them up to the tech resources works. And this also will address part of one of Bob's questions. So far, the homepage of that now it starts with Seesaw and Google Classroom, and I've got resources both in Spanish and English, videos for parents and handouts for parents there. And then for Seesaw, there's also a link to additional translations. It's fairly limited so far, but trying to build that out, just trying to be more responsive to those families that do have a second language or speak a different language than English. So working on that. And the other part of that redesign is that instead of being a collection of what we thought would be useful, just sort of a variety of tools that parents could choose from, it's actually fully aligned to our instructional materials now. So, and I divided up 3 through 5 from, we used to have a big category of 3 through 8, and I've divided it to 3 through 5 and 6 through 8, but it lines with our adopted programs. And then at the bottom, it still has what we think are some of the best resources for families who are looking for something else additionally for their students, just some additional resources that align with what we're doing in schools. I've also mapped the proposed schedules to the front page and things like that. So hopefully families will find that resource even better than it was when we launched it last year. And as John mentioned, it's one of those things that I'll continually update as the year progresses. Been really involved with John and Thane, coordinating, making sure all the materials are synced up and ready to go. Been working with the registrars, particularly at the high school and the middle school, making sure that we are getting our Skyward system aligned to what we're trying to do, and that we're meeting the state reporting requirements, and finishing to configuring some gradebook stuff. So working with building registrars on that. Let's see, and training for staff. Well, all last spring, we and throughout the summer and now prior to the start of school, we've been offering, we did internal training last spring, both on Google Classroom, and we also tapped into the knowledge of our Link staff for how to build relationships with students when you're in a kind of a remote setting. So we used that last spring. But this year, what's nice is that our Puget Sound ESD is sponsoring training, 3 days of training hour each day in both of the learning management systems. Our principals were quick. Everybody that was in the system that they signed up for a spot to make sure that we had all of the training covered, including all of us administrators, and anybody who was in the system got signed up for class so we could hold spaces. But all of Chautauqua, as John mentioned, is signed up for the Seesaw training. Danny and Greg signed up all their staff for Google, but honestly, there are quite a few staff that are already pretty advanced with their Google skills. So some of them won't be doing that first level Google class. There will be a second level in each of these management systems coming out at a later date. And that's when some of them will jump into those trainings. And then just bouncing lots of ideas of family support. So like John mentioned that we have, we're using some of the tutorial videos for that, but we've also kicked around the idea of potentially having some video trainings conducted by staff or a Q&A session with families to help those families. We've also talked about maybe trying to get a liaison for families who need that extra technology support. So a lot going on with that. I think that's probably good for now. In the process of applying for all of our grants for next year. Some that I was able to do in June, we've done and have been approved. There's a few that are opening up now, and I need to get the basic ed report filed after we get the OSPI continuous learning paperwork approved tonight. So that's kind of next on the docket there, and I'm sure I forgot something. And it's equally important, but if you have questions,
I think you're
fire
covering
away.
quite a bit, Stephanie. Thanks. I do think I remember too that the PSESD will be launching some parent training soon as well. So I'm eager to see what that will look like, and hopefully it's not limited like they kind of when they first started the teacher and staff training. So. Are there questions from the board for Stephanie?
I guess.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna jump in. I think one of the significant concerns, especially for our special ed families, are kids that have trouble interfacing with the technology. Not necessarily from an from a lack of knowledge standpoint, but a comfort standpoint, being able to, be on camera, have the skills to access the lessons and to follow along and keep up. And so I'm kind of curious what the plans are to help address those issues with our special ed families.
Yes, I think I'll let Catherine, I think she's up next, speak to that more directly. But yes, there have been conversations about how to best facilitate help for those students. And it's going to be obviously a case-by-case basis with the IEP team. But she can tell you more about that. We are looking at small groups and doing all of those things, small groups, face-to-face if possible. But she'll be able to give you a better detailed response to that. And I do think she's up next on the list.
Okay, go ahead, Bob.
I just had, it's probably a very vague question, and so my apologies for that. Could you talk a little bit about, I know you are a data maven, and could you talk a little bit about how you use data, sort of, you will use data going forward to sort of track progress, to make sure that struggling students aren't falling further behind, and sort of what you will be doing going forward to use data to sort of keep an eye on the state of the union, for lack of a better term.
Okay, well, great question. Let's see. And I'll do my best to try and succinctly address that. First of all, just in terms of like general engagement and so forth, all of our staff last year kept tabs on who was participating and who was not, which basically then activated our Tier 2 team, which was counselors, teachers, paraeducators, all hands on deck to try to connect with the families and find out what the barriers were. I wish I could report that that was 100% successful. It wasn't. John sort of alluded to this in the technology. So we kind of have that list of families that we know had difficulties last year. And so we feel like we're going to try to be more proactive in reaching out with those families. So there's that piece of tracking who's actually showing up, who's participating, and we're identifying those students and getting them on basically onto our tier 2 teams list so that we can be doing additional, more intense outreach. It is going to be a different learning environment than last spring. This is a much more structured environment, much more intentionally designed instruction. You know, like everybody last year, the staff were amazing in how they stepped up, but it was really learning on the fly and doing our best job to fill in not being there. So there's that piece, that engagement piece. At the beginning of the year, we will be doing universal screening. So what that means is that we have a screening tool for both math and reading. That's primarily K through 5. So we'll be doing those universal screenings, which will obviously help us determine the present level of students in both math and reading. We also have data from where they were last year, last winter. We did not get a spring assessment in, so unfortunately we don't have that benchmark, but we will be able to do that this fall. At the middle school, we're bringing on a new math program to pilot this year that comes with a full assessment suite, which will also serve that same purpose. We'll be able to do a universal screen for those students, get a measure for where they're at. And what's nice about that particular program, along with their regular classroom instruction, that diagnostic then creates sort of learning pathways for the students. So a couple of weeks that work on their own individual learning pathways, which is online lessons specifically designed for where they're at or dealing with skills that they maybe have holes in their development. So, so that's the universal screening. And at the high school, we're still talking about what that might look like. And then also at all 3 buildings, we're going to be doing some sort of social emotional screening. We're not entirely sure exactly what the tool is just yet, but again, that universal screen to try and identify those students who have extra need that we need to support. So is that getting at what you're thinking of?
Yeah. Do you want me to wait? I have another social emotional question, so I can wait, or I can ask that one if you want to answer it.
Well,
do you want me to wait?
You can ask it now.
Is this a Catherine
I don't know.
question or a Stephanie question? Well, we all know that there's a pandemic of anxiety, depression, and mental health, and other issues that the adults and kids are suffering from. So will there be additional support? Could you elaborate, I guess, on the additional support that will be available for kids? And I'm particularly interested in anything we can do preventative.
Right. You know, I actually could speak to that, but I think that actually the building principals and possibly Catherine might have more to say on that. Okay. But I do know that, for example, having neighbor care looking to reopen is going to be a huge, significant help for our families, for sure. Okay.
I'm good.
So I'm going to let other people address it as they come to it. Okay.
Yep.
Thanks so much, Stephanie.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. That's
I
another
think
heavy lift.
I think John beat you, though. I'm just gonna.
Yeah. No, I kept my list nice and edited down short, so I don't want to trump him. I'll give him his day.
Wait, Stephanie, before you go, can I ask you a quick question? Sarah, coming back, is she replacing somebody or is this a new position?
So Anne Van Hold retired last year, And so we took that opportunity to look at our current caseload, and knowing that I've had this long desire to have a K-8, a more cohesive K-8 experience. We took this opportunity to do that. And the need to have that not only in our English language learning program, but also our highly capable program. So what I'm hoping to do is build that continuity and having that designated voice that's K-8 instead of carved out amongst lots of different staff. And so she's going to do that. And then Sarah Filinoski, who was filling that English language learner role at the middle school, has been reassigned to cover humanities classes. So, there's just changing in staffing needs. And the same with Gay Roselle stepped up last year to do our pilot homeroom with a group of our highly capable students last year. So now she'll be able to run her green team homeroom or whatever that's going to look like this year. But yeah, so it's basically taking a look
good.
at
Well, that's great. That's
assigning
continuity is a
staff
good
and
thing.
looking to have that position. Yeah.
Sorry, Stephanie, I did have one more question.
Okay.
Kids that can perform up or down in a particular grade level, are we going to be able to accommodate their needs?
Yes, we are.
Could you explain how?
So let's see. First of all, we have been able to do that for a long time to varying degrees of success. All right, so a lot of it has to do with the ability to differentiate instruction within the classroom, but also just the ability to have supports, tier 2 supports in reading and math, and tier 3 supports in reading and math for students who are struggling or are highly capable pull-out enrichment type activity, as well as differentiation in the classroom. So one of the things about the curriculums that we have, both at the elementary level and actually all the way through the system, but at the elementary, let me just give the elementary as an example. For example, we adopted Collaborative Classroom a few years ago. And so a Collaborative Classroom has 3 different programs. One of them is called Being a Reader. It has different leveled sets that you assign, you do an assessment, you assign students to a particular set, they work through that set, you reassess, and then you bump them up or sideways or wherever, to get them at a level that they need to be for their reading instruction. So they might dip into our tier 2 reading support for 9-week stint and then back out into their regular leveled reading class. The math curriculum at the middle school that we're piloting fully this year, and we'll be piloting a bit at the elementary school, has that same idea. It has that ability to differentiate up and down, where the teachers actually have access to all of the grade level materials K through 8. So it makes their jobs much easier because they have access to all of those various materials, plus the assessment that they do. Again, provides that kind of individualized pathway. So while there'll be whole class instruction on grade level content, the students have a few times a week where they are working on the pathway for them. So students who need more support or more review are working at, say, below grade level. Students who are right on grade level are getting more practice with on grade level content, and students who are beyond grade level content are getting to work on things beyond grade level content. So the tools that we're looking at now and in our recent adoptions do a much better job of providing that suite of activities for our teachers to be able to pull from. That's not to say that, that there are still occasionally some issues where it's not a perfect alignment. But I feel like we are, over the last several years, we're starting to see better designed materials that take some of that really heavy lifting away from the teachers of having to design everything. And then secondly, with universal design, it really supports that whole concept that with universal design, what you're doing in your lessons is you're trying to provide multiple ways of experiencing the content, or multiple ways that students can display their knowledge, kind of along with standards-based grading. This idea of being able to demonstrate competency in a variety of ways that can be a teacher-directed activity or a student-initiated activity or a partnership between the two. So I don't know if that directly answers what you're looking for, but I would say that we, over the last several years, have moved in a more supportive direction for both students and teachers with the materials that we've been bringing on board.
Thank you. Very full answer. I was just curious if it sounds like this new learning environment we are set up to deal with it. We don't need, this does not pose any unique challenges that we did other than the other challenges.
Right, right. Other than obviously the barriers that we know exist for being in a remote environment.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you. Great
Hi,
job,
Catherine.
Stephanie.
Welcome to the board meeting, Catherine.
All right, thank you very much. It's nice to see everybody. Let's see, where have we been under the student services umbrella? The first thing I want to talk about is some things that have happened over the summer that you may not know about. Right at the end of June, we got word from our ECAP.
I believe you just muted yourself, Catherine.
Way to leave us hanging.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not going to touch anything. I'm just going to talk. Let's see. So we got the word at the 11th hour that there may be an opportunity to provide some summer programming to our ECAP students at the end of June. And then at the end of July, we got the thumbs up to be able to move forward with that funding. And so for the past couple of weeks and through the end of the month, we've been able to provide some additional services over the summer directly to our ECAP students. We've been focusing on our students that are rising from preschool to kindergarten, as well as new families into the program. Be able to continue our recruitment efforts so that we can serve our full allotment of students at the beginning of the year. And so Sally and Lilia have both been working to be connecting with parents. Lilia has been providing lessons for parents to be able to work with their students and some coaching of the parents, and Sally's been doing recruiting and coaching as well. And so those students who are moving into kindergarten should be a little bit better prepared to do that than they would have been. And our numbers going into ECAP will start, I think, as strong as we are able to, which is that was really wonderful opportunity. Yeah, every summer we serve a few students through the ESY program. That's the extended school year. That's defined by the IEP team. Those students who who meet some specific criteria. And so, the past few weeks, we've had a few students who've also been receiving some specific ESY services. We had intended, we had hoped when we left in June that we would be able to do that face-to-face and kind of practice what safely providing services face-to-face would look like. We did an 11th hour pivot and did not do that face-to-face. It has been provided virtually, but we've been able to address a few students who will be able to benefit the easing into the school year a little bit differently since they've had kind of a bridge built for them. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Since I got back, we've really been focusing on what it will look like for our highest need students in the district as we move into our fully virtual model. And I do want to pause and talk about how honored I am to be working with a group of building administrators who continue to prioritize the needs of our highest need students. Throughout our planning process over the past couple of weeks, I will tell you that the plan that we have put together has had at the forefront of it, how do we meet the needs of our neediest learners, whether that's students who receive special ed services, or students who have 504 plans, or students who are in our ESL program, or a variety of different needs. But much of the planning that has gone in has really placed those students at the forefront, as opposed to having those students be an afterthought. And in all my years of doing this, I haven't always worked with teams for whom our neediest students were in the middle of the planning. And every day I'm grateful for partnering with the building administrators who do that with me to make sure that happens. So the plans we've made have had a very strong equity focus, and I believe that together are going to, in some ways serve some of our neediest students better than ever, which is kind of ironic. But I'm excited that, as Stephanie talked about, the being able to really begin to focus on how we are doing universal design for learning. This has given us an opportunity to kind of jumpstart some ideas around how do we kind of stretch out our planning to meet the needs of a variety of learners in a variety of different ways. So that kind of gets to what Reagan was asking. I'll be more specific. The first question that I'll be asking my special ed case managers as they come back, and I have begun asking them already, is to identify those students for whom virtual learning has been a real struggle, and that we need to do something different. And it will be the job of those teams then over the next couple of weeks as we gear up to meet with families and plan for what do we need to do differently for those individual learners. It's hard to speak in generalities because those plans need to be individual for individual students and individual families. And so that's how it will be approached. The other thing that I want to mention is that last spring, the paraeducators in our district stepped up in a way that was somewhat unique within the system as I spoke with other directors in other districts. And in that, we paired many of our paraeducators with small groups of students that they then formed cohorts that they followed throughout their day and provided additional small group instruction to align with what was going on in the gen ed setting. And we will continue with that model of pairing our paraeducators with our students and with our gen ed teachers in order to kind of create a bridge for students between the content and being able to access that content. Paying close attention to the recommendations from the health department and from L&I, we are going to begin to look at how to serve kids individually and in small groups. It's kind of the first step as we begin moving back into serving large groups of kids in the school building. We will start that with small groups of students and individual students in the school building with plans that are designed specific for those students. And those students for whom accessing virtual education is challenging, and that we must do something different. So they're our first line of kids who will get that service. The goal really is to be nimble and be able to respond. So as the virus allows us, we will be able to pivot very quickly into larger and larger group instruction
Catherine,
as we move forward.
Catherine, can I jump in? With those individual students, those IEP students, are they coming in, would they be coming in August 31st, not August 31st, but in the beginning of school this now?
All students will start day one virtually. And I expect within the first 2 weeks, we will begin adding sessions of individual or small groups as the teams have time to plan. Part of the challenge is that we must work within the IEP team system. And so we need to meet with teams and rewrite IEPs. And all of that takes time to do. And so as people come on board, we will identify students, we will meet as teams, and we will put things in place. And
but we don't have to wait for phase 1.29 to arrive. Or
right now,
we can just get them in. Great.
We don't, and that's because of the rules that have come forth already will allow us to meet with students in small groups and individually. As long as we have face, as long as we have the safety protocols in place.
Just a quick note that is referenced in the resolution as well.
Yeah, I thought I saw it in there, but I just wanted to really clarify that they could start ASAP.
Yeah, I wanted to make it a point of clarity for our public here.
We are working also with labor leaders to establish safety protocols. And so, like Catherine said, there are several steps, not only just the IEP process, but in terms of how do we make it safer for those students and staff to come in. So there are some steps to be done.
The one last thing that I want to speak to is to respond to Bob's question around data-based decisions. One of the things that our teams will be doing as kids enter is to circle back around with assessing their learning on their learning targets and their IEP. Because we know that some students have had more success in accessing learning in our new format than others. And so that kind of recovery of those services will be an ongoing conversation throughout the year to ensure that our students who receive IEP services are being afforded the program that's outlined in their IEPs and being able to benefit from that. And that'll be an ongoing assessment that will be happening.
Catherine, this is Bob. Do you guys, is there a role for tutors in this whole scheme as a support? And I'm thinking, in the Latino community in particular, where the language barriers might be an issue, is there a role for people who know the stuff to teach the stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, yes, the short answer is yes. I think we want to take advantage of the partnerships that we have developed and are continuing to develop in the community to meet some really specific needs, including tutors.
So we're looking, I mean, is there, you probably have not had a moment to think about this, but is it your thought that there could be a core of tutors, parents, whomever, where I know so many big-hearted people would love to help out, and obviously it'd have to be culturally appropriate and all that, but is this something that's given some serious thought?
Bob, yes. I don't know that. Yes, there we go. Thank you, Slade.
So yes, in our admin discussions, we are trying to put together core volunteers, and we know it actually takes a volunteer coordinator to do that, right?
Hey, that's my idea.
And so we need a volunteer coordinator, and then we do want to recruit volunteers. And I know Rebecca has had some discussion with some community members, and I know Susan McCabe and Gibb have also community members who are wanting to step forward. So you're right, we absolutely have resources that we want to bring to bear. We need to organize and get that moving. We've also talked about bilingual tutors and coordinators and tapping into both BYFS and Comunidad, and there may be racial equity funding to support some of that, that effort as well.
I'm happy to hear that.
My one last closing statement will be that you will notice if you take a look at the planning the principals have done around the schedules that there is intentional time built in throughout the day at all 3 schools and throughout the week at all 3 schools to be able to provide individualized programming for students all along the way. And that includes time built in to provide some intentional social emotional instruction as well.
Great. All right, Catherine, thank you for all of that. It's a heavy lift like all of these issues are, but sounds like you put a lot of thought into it, and we're looking forward to seeing it in action.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Catherine. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Catherine. And shout out to the rest of your team too. I know your school psychs and SLPs and Mary Michael. I mean, everybody really is jumping in and gearing up. So much.
Thanks, Slade, for making a point of saying that, because I am exceedingly proud of our special ed team and the work that they have done. If you know anything about special education, the requirements, the technical requirements can be amazingly overwhelming. And wow, I just could not be prouder of our team of special ed teachers and staff and paraeducators for the work that they've done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thomas, welcome. ALE is up and running, and yes, there are waiting lists, but can you share with us kind of what's happening in your world, and thank you for coming tonight.
So okay, I'm unmuted. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here. And I'm grateful for all the work that people have been putting into making this possible on such short notice. Just blown away by listening to John's list, for example. I can be brief. We're already built for remote learning. So it's kind of, it's easy on us in a way, even though we're very sad about not having the kids in the buildings. Especially on the playground, that is all finished. A big shout out to Kevin's crew. The grounds crew has been amazing. They basically, we had to give up having a field to run around in to have a playground, and so they built us a new field. And it was amazing how quickly they just did that, and now there's grass growing. So super grateful for facilities, and looking forward to the day that we can have kids out there. As things are, we're opening just the way we were operating in the spring, which was working pretty well. Families and students having their meetings with their certificated teachers remotely through Google Meets mostly. And then also the tutoring for Student Link has been working remotely. We'll continue that. And for Family Link, for this year, we've set up 36 weeks of Spanish classes and 36 weeks of art classes over Zoom with our instructors, our contracted instructors, who have gotten really good at that. And even though we're hoping to get some in-person learning opportunities as soon as we can open, we're going to keep those going the whole time, because we know that one of the populations we're serving right now is folks who already know that they wouldn't come back to school yet, even if we're at the right phase and we can have in-person learning. We've had some of our students tell us that they wouldn't come back anyway. So providing something remote that's sort of a backbone, and then adding in-person experiences for the Family Link kids when that's possible. So that's how we've built that. And at this point, we're really focused on details, thinking about how to deliver a curriculum to families or have them pick it up in a safe way throughout the school year, and just getting some of our little systems and details under control, right? Having only staff in the buildings and plenty of sanitizing spray all over the place and all the little details. So that's where we're at. And we do have a wait list for Family Link. Student Link has capacity still. And I don't, we're waiting to see. I think a lot of people have reached out to us just from a feeling of uncertainty. So, some of what's on that wait list is not necessarily people who are determined to, or even mission appropriate for our program, but rather just trying to think about what other options are. So we'll just stay on top of that and see what people really need from us.
So
Thomas,
Thomas,
oh, sorry, Megan. I just had a clarifying question. Did you say that which has the wait list? Family Link or
Family Link? Yeah.
Has the wait list. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, my question was more concerning the mission of alternative learners and part of the capacity you're trying to hold open for kids who really don't thrive in the standardized environment and really need the alternative option. Is that kind of what you're trying to preserve?
Yeah, that's part of it. Trying to discern and make sure everybody's where they actually need to be. So we don't necessarily want people in the alternative learning slots if what they actually need is one example is I'll have someone call and say, here's the kind of degree of structure I need provided in advance. And then I say, that sounds like school to me. That it's not that's not that's not what we do.
It's alternative. Right.
Every day, every assignment. So yeah, trying to discern that as we go forward.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a good point of clarification, Reagan. I appreciate that. Any other questions for Thomas tonight?
I'm just sorry your kids don't get to play on the playground.
I know. Well, apparently you guys get to go play on it next week, so I'm glad for you.
Social distancing, mask, sanitation. It doesn't sound like it could be fun.
A good time. A good time will be had.
Yeah, but great time.
I'll put a box of gloves out there for you guys.
Mm-hmm. We have to go in 2 smaller groups because of size. Oh yes, it's good. It's gonna be good times had by all. Thanks, Thomas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
First, but was Toby? Did you have something?
No, I just was saying thanks, Thomas. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for 57 folks still online. I know not all 57 because many of them are staff that we see kind of on the list right here, but thanks for still being online with us and sharing your time.
We told you there was a lot of information.
Right, yeah. But it's worth it. I think it's worth it to know and appreciate the resources, and they're gifts. They really are just gifts that we're blessed with in terms of our staff and the partnerships and everybody working together to put on, to give the best experience to our kids. So I'm glad that folks are able to hear what is happening.
Yeah, and before we get to Rebecca and Danny and Greg, I just want to say that the level, the effort at really meeting individual needs is fairly unprecedented in most districts. Because of our size, we have the ability to try to really make those one-on-one connections and deal with individual needs and challenges to a much greater degree than like a Tacoma or Seattle schools. So I'm grateful for that as well. What's hard is hard. Hard stuff is hard, and this is hard, and it's not going to be completely satisfactory to everyone, but I'm really impressed at everyone's conscientious concern and really desire to deliver the best experience possible. And my final comment is that My sister-in-law is a principal in the Tacoma School District, and she sent out a little thing on Facebook, little meme the other day that said, this year is every teacher's first year of teaching all over again. So, you know, imagine having your profession kind of turned upside down and reinvented in 6 months. And I think our people have really risen to the challenge. And I'm just impressed with the degree of care that's apparent in everyone's reporting tonight.
That sounds like a principal quote. Yeah. So welcome, yes, Rebecca, and then we'll have Greg and Danny speak, and then I know you've already asked questions, but if there are follow-up questions or other points that we want to kind of uncover for the public tonight, this would be a great opportunity for that. So thank you for hanging in there. I know it's 10 till 10, so we're just gonna keep it rolling. I appreciate it. Thanks, Rebecca.
Okay, thank you. Hey, and I want to publicly thank our team. We had a large team of staff members interested in being on our Chautauqua reopening team, and so based on that demand, we created our own team and met several times before school was out, and then met several times during the summer. And we have classified staff and certificated staff and special education and general education, like people working together to kind of brainstorm ideas that led us to our opening plan. And to parents, we got a lot of input from parents in the spring about what was working and what wasn't working. I met with Cynthia Ramos from Comunidad Latina to talk about her interviews with our Spanish-speaking parents and really tried to figure out what our families wanted and needed. And actually what they want and need is diverse, which is not super surprising. When you're trying to meet everyone's needs, it's a wide range of needs. And so, so thanks to everyone on the district reopening team. That was really helpful putting it together. And what we were I'm really happy with our plan in the end. It kind of accommodated the push and pull that we were experiencing and that we were hearing from our teachers and from our families, is that some really want more live instruction and support and more online time where they can access that help. And then the other parents really want less screen time and more flexibility to kind of do their own thing on their own timeline because of work schedules, because of family life, because of bandwidth, like all sorts of reasons. And so we came up with a schedule that kind of balanced that. And then we also had, with teachers working on schedules, we had a real desire to have more time for small groups. And so, you know, some whole group lessons where everyone gets the same message and the same new learning, and then a chance to work in smaller groups with students. And so, and we need that smaller group time to access, so that our ELL students can access instruction, our special education students needing math and reading support, our young learners learning to read, like there will be a need for small group learning. And so building that into our schedule. And so that's a lot to figure out in one schedule. And I feel like we did it. So there's going to be live lessons with support. The lessons will vary in length depending on the age of the students and their developmental appropriateness, but the teacher will stay online and be able to support families that need more support. There's also going to be options for online work. They can both like download it and do it on the computer, or we'll still have learning packets for people that really want more of an offline experience. And then we're really excited about Seesaw. It's an interactive platform, so it's going to be much easier for kids to actually like complete their work on the computer. They can also submit things easily, and teachers can like record instructions, and kids can like record answers really easily, like even little kids. So that'll be wonderful for students. And we're going to have specialist classes. And one neat thing we have, because of the unique situation of distance learning, our specialist staffers are going to teach some specialists their specialty in the afternoon, but that leaves them available in the morning to do support. So we already have data on our students that really struggled in the spring with distance learning, and we're going to partner those students with teachers or support personnel like right at the beginning of the school year. We have the fortune to have a Spanish teacher, and so in the morning we're going to pair her specifically with our Latinos, with our Spanish-speaking students, and supporting some of those parents along with Sarah Hamill, our ELL K-8 support teacher. And so we do have some additional support in that area. We have one of our specialist teachers is going to be tech support in the morning. And so we're kind of partnering people's specialty and their abilities with what our needs are. And so that we're excited about that. And teachers are going to end the day with office hours daily so that kids can check in and get help if they need it. And so that was the request that came from parents. And then we're still looking at exploring options for outdoor learning. So we're still partnering with the community to look into what would tent structures look like. And whenever we're able to go outside and bring small groups back, like we want to be ready. And so we're still exploring those options and we have a lot of interest in it. We're just waiting for Department of Health to tell us it's okay. But we're excited about our schedule. It's like two blocks of time in the morning for learning, like literacy and math, and then a long lunch break, and then the afternoon coming back for like half an hour of social studies or thematic studies and science, and then a specialist time in the afternoon, and then being able to check in with your teachers. So I think it's going to be really workable for parents, and there's like a flexibility built in to help people make it work for them. So I think it's a nice balance of guidance and support and flexibility. And within that afternoon time, there's like a built-in time for small group support for kids that need it. So that is pretty exciting. So while we did not want to begin in a distance situation, we're feeling like ready, and well, not ready. We have a lot of professional development to do, but we've got a plan and it's going to be good. So we're pulling it together. We're proud of what we're doing.
You know where you're headed. Yeah.
We know where we're going. We're not there yet, but we have plans. So it's we think it'll be great and responsive to the needs of our community. So, so that's where we are.
What other questions might folks have for Rebecca?
I think a consistent theme of some of the community letters was about keeping the engagement, especially for the youngest kids. Can you just speak a little bit more about the flexibility to help hold their attention and work with them and make sure they're getting their content?
Yeah, I mean, especially like our kindergarten learners, we have a fabulous kindergarten K1 team. I mean, a K2, I mean, our teachers are wonderful, and they're very aware of attention span issues and the need for movement and keeping things exciting. I mean, they are super aware of what the needs of small children are. And so coming up with a combination of support and then small group learning. So their whole group lessons will be much shorter, and they'll have more activities to do off the screen and with a family member, and then have that support if they need it online. And just we know that, I mean, they're just not going to sit in front of a screen for that long at the kindergarten level. That's not how we want them to start their school experience. But even up till third or fourth grade, I mean, they need to be interacting and moving and exploring and looking into things that are of interest to them. And so we're going to have aware of that across the grades, but especially with our youngest learners.
Rebecca, go ahead, Megan. Sorry.
I was just going to say, if you had to guesstimate the amount of time a child was going to spend, an elementary school child that's going to need to be online during the average school day, what would your guesstimate be of their actual online time versus their offline experiences as well?
Yeah, so it is, it's like a maximum of 3 hours online, and then plus like support time if they wanted. But I don't think most classes with the younger grades, they won't go that long. I mean, then it's probably going to be an hour and a half with the younger grades, but then there's that option. Your teacher will be there, so you can check in and get more support, and there'll be more small groups. So like our math block is set for an hour, and the literacy is an hour in the morning. And the afternoon, it's a half hour for social studies and science. And so that's kind of how the day is broken up. And then there's a specialist block for half an hour. And so if you added all those together, you would have 3 hours if they were all full. But depending on your grade level and how much support you need, you might not be on for that long. And there is the possibility that you could not attend one of the online sessions and just do that work at home with your parent, because we'll have the resources uploaded. So you could look at what the assignment is for the day. And if you're confident you know how to work through that with your child, you could do that on your own offline. So there's those options for parents as well if they're feeling like they need less support.
Yeah, well, that definitely sounds more manageable from a time position for kids and parents. So thank you for that. Go ahead, Zabet.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Reagan. Rebecca, I mean, this is really sort of any of the principals could answer this, but since you're first, I'm gonna give it to you. And this is also a concern that we heard in letters, and I think I know the answer, but it'd be great just if you could explain. I think there was a lot of concern that these programs, these things came out of the blue, like the principals sprung this on the community. Sort of, I don't know, like there was some secret work happening over the summer, and then all of a sudden it's here. And so could you explain that? Because I know that it's not true, and there's issues with working with the unions, and there's people on summer vacation because they had a crazy spring and actually needed a little time out. So would you mind taking that one on?
Sure. I just know we, in the spring, we spent a lot of time reaching out to our families. So we had a lot of teachers did surveys of their own parents in their classroom. And so we looked at that data about engagement and what parents wanted more of and less than, how it was working. We reached out to every parent that wasn't engaged in their education to figure out what the barriers were, what was working for them, what was not working for them. We heard from many parents that had concerns about what they wanted more of or less than. And so we ended the year with our staff having a lot of information from our parents about what was working and what was not working. And so we had district surveys in the summer to gather more information, but we really did end with a lot of information. And that's why we were able to move into our reopening team, knowing from the teacher and staff perspective, and being able to bring that parent perspective on from all the communication we had with parents. We also have a lot of staff members, our classified certificate staff, they're working with kids at home. So they have that perspective also of, I'm a teacher and I have little kids at home. And so we had a lot of people on our team that had that perspective as well. So we really did, through individual outreach in the spring, as well as working with Comunidad Latina. And because I speak Spanish, a lot of parents would talk to me about kind of what their needs were too. And so we were able to gather a lot of information about what parents needed. And then we looked into best practices. And so, well, what does make sense for teaching? And so some simple things were like, start things at the same hour every day, and start them on the hour if you can. So, like, okay, you're getting on at 9, but for us it's 9, 10:30, 12:30, but like, at least just like, when it is. So the things like that make things easier. Submit it in the same format all the time. Like, make things some whole group and then some optional. Like, there's just things in some small groups, some large groups. So there's certain things we looked at, like, how do kids learn? What does the research show? What are best practices around distance learning? And so we looked at that, as well as the input we had from family and staff from the spring.
Thank you.
Yeah, we did. Oh, sorry, one more thing. We did run our data in terms of students. We had about 65% that were engaged pretty easily with online learning, and then another 25% that needed significant kind of support from the teachers to get involved in distance learning, and then about 10% that like really, really struggled, that we weren't ever able to kind of crack the nut. Like, they just struggled with distance learning through the end of the year. And so we know who the families are from last year, and we're going to have a really proactive approach to meet the needs of those students and get them engaged earlier and kind of partner them with someone needing support.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca. Hi, Greg.
Hey there, how are y'all? Yeah.
I think I've spent more time with Greg on Zoom than anybody, actually. So good to see you again.
Yeah, well, we have a pretty similar secondary schedule that we put together, but I'll share a little bit about the McMurray context of that, and then turn it over to Danny for sure. But first of all, I just want to give shout out, kudos to our McMurray team, particularly for last spring. I really had this sense of folks really jumping in, innovating, making the most out of the situation, and in a lot of cases really made learning real and engaged our students in a significant way. And I'm just appreciating that staff are bringing those same thoughtful and creative ideas on how to take our program to the next level, and creating this distance learning 2.0 and really an enhanced program. Our folks are really eager, I think, to learn and improve their craft. Really, our main goal is to take some of those experiences and that feedback that folks have talked about and develop a much more structured and predictable and really a robust learning plan for our students, while at the same time providing really focused support for both academic development and social emotional development, and particularly with not just our typical learners, but as Catherine talked about, those students with the unique learning needs, students with IEPs, and our ELL learners as well. But really creating some capacity in whatever schedule we create to provide those support opportunities for our students. This past spring, it was ironic. I also want to thank Carrie Power for leading our staff and kind of reimagining our school culture, which is a super important component to any school. But in our school, she really led an opportunity for us to re-envision and to reimagine how we could become a more compassionate and empathetic and equity-driven environment for both our students and our staff. And I think that's going to be super important both in this online reality and the distance learning reality, but more particularly when we can come back to school. So I want to thank them for that, and I know that's going to pay off in this new program. So in analyzing our schedule options with Vashon High School, we recognized the constraints we were dealing with. Shared staff, we have a ton of shared students that we needed to really align ourselves in a way that we could have a similar schedule. We also really balanced and tried to weigh the need to simplify and create a more manageable and sustainable schedule for our students, which came through in a lot of that feedback. But we do realize that we really had to weigh that desire, that value, with the concern around potential gaps that exist in a quarter schedule. And where we landed, Danny can elaborate a little bit more on that, but this quarter model where students can have focused learning blocks of the first quarter being first period, third period, and fifth period, the second quarter being second period, fourth period, and sixth period. And those learning blocks would be for instruction, direct instruction, independent work with students, and a lot of peer collaboration that we want to enhance within those learning blocks. The other piece to our schedule is 2 separate homeroom times, one to focus in on that social emotional development, and then another for more support for academics. And those have yet to be defined fully, but we wanted to create the capacity to be able to offer that for our students. We're looking forward to, our teams have already been working throughout the summer toward re-envisioning what their courses are going to look like, and I know they're eager to spend some more in-depth time together to align themselves, working collaboratively, and really just reimagining our program and our courses, and ultimately engaging students. So we're looking forward to that work.
Thanks, Greg. I think I'll save most of my quarter system questions for Danny, but maybe you or Slade could just reiterate how many other districts are going to a quarter model around us. I think some of the concern was that we might be the only one going out on a limb here, and that's not the case, correct?
No, the regional superintendents have really been contemplating. I mean, Danny talked about Gus, in 8 different models, and so regional superintendents are all kind of seeing some similar challenges. That if you move to a 6th period, you're trying to mitigate a lot of capacity issues, but also sustainability and those parents and students who really require a more simplified system. And then if you move to the 3-period quarter system, now you're mitigating continuity issues. And so, and I know Danny spoke well to that, but so the conversations are the same. That I haven't kept track with everybody, but I know Issaquah and Federal Way, no, Enumclaw and Federal Way, I believe, are moving to a quarter system in some shape, fashion, or form. But again, I'm not. I think it comforts people when they know that maybe someone else is doing that. But really, I'm focused on the quality of our program, and I'm not as concerned as trying to compare it to an Enumclaw district or a Federal Way district who our context is so different from them in so many ways. And so I know it helps. You feel kind of comfort and company, but I'm really focused on the programs that we're delivering and have confidence in them and believe that we're making them for, based on our values and beliefs around the supports that students need. So, but I'll just kind of maybe turn it over to Danny now, and he can probably speak to some of that, but also kind of share some of his process and decision making. Thanks, Greg, so much.
Thanks, Greg.
Hi, everyone, and hello to anyone who's been with us since 6 p.m. Gold star.
51 hearty soul.
Yeah, so try not to repeat myself here too much, but still cover the points. Our team started actively planning for the start of school as it became clear in the spring that we were going to need to be prepared for some kind of online learning. However, we really believed all the way through the middle of July that we were actually going to be starting in a hybrid model. It wasn't until July when county and state and national trends changed that we came to realize that we were going to need to be prepared for 100% remote learning. And so we actually came back from our vacations early last week in July and started the process of planning for what a fully remote learning program would look like. We do have some advantages on the West Coast of going, starting the school year later. And so we did get to draw upon, there were published plans and published templates that we were able to draw upon from the Midwest and the East Coast that helped inform some of our planning and discussion. At the secondary level grade, Gus and I spent hours and hours together kind of, again, pouring over some of that research, doing some reading, and then putting together what ultimately was 8 or 10 different models. And those models then we put in front of our teacher leads at both schools. And those teacher leads, they actually represent all subjects, all like our counselors, special ed, elective programs, CTE. So, and it's a powerful group of educational leaders, our PLC leads, and they were able to look at those plans and give us feedback on all of those plans. And based on the feedback and the pros and the cons, it became clear that, again, as I stated earlier, that we were in the best position to mitigate the liabilities of a quarter model and to harness the advantage of the quarter model over the liabilities of managing 6 classes. I can say, just as a point of clarification, the 6-period models and the quarter model have the exact same number of instructional hours. So we're not talking about more content being available to us in the semester model. It's a question of the value of spreading that content out over time versus managing the volume of content between 6 different courses. And so one of the things we saw in the spring that I just want to speak to briefly is we had about 18% of our students at the high school end the spring term with incompletes. And it's a pretty high number for us. It represents about 65 students in about 180 different classes, between 180 and 200 different classes that they did not earn credit in. And so part of what they'll be doing under the Do No Harm mandate from the state in the spring is they'll be working to convert those incompletes into letter grades. Of that 65 students, 18 of them are students with IEPs, which is about double the number of students with IEPs as compared to the general population. So in other words, they were way overrepresented of the struggling students who struggled with the online format and the engaging with learning. Overwhelmingly, our students with disabilities struggled. And we have, I mean, I can give you lots of anecdotal evidence of that as well. Of course, a lot of our high performing students and typically developing students also really struggled, and in many different ways did they struggle. So we have, in building a model, we need a model that can somehow, I think as Rebecca was saying, kind of span the gamut of need between students who need a lot of academic intervention and support and social emotional support in order to access their learning. Other students who need a highly structured program with lots of rigor and support and accountability in order to get their needs met, and then everything in between. So it really was with a lot of those needs in mind and a lot of that research and process in our back pocket that we came to conclude that the 3-course quarter was going to be our best move. It includes an hour and a half every day of support, and that support is, you know, we imagine that support to serve a lot of different needs. It's where we're going to, I want to harness some of that time during the school day in order to mitigate some of the gaps of instruction and gaps of learning that will occur in this quarter model. I appreciated some of the letters and feedback we had in the public comment today, suggestions for how to mitigate the quarter model. We'll go back to our master schedule and take a look at that. We're already going back to our master schedule to look at how to, if possible, reorder some classes so that they fall most smartly in that 1, 2, 3, 4 quarter sequence. I'm working with individual teachers who teach AP classes or who teach very specific courses in order to find out what do they need. And I just want to report to you that, I mean, we have amazing teachers in our schools right now, and at the high school is no exception. I mean, they are ambitious and they are creative. They are seeing this as possibility. And when I talk about the shift in education towards a standards-based learning model, it really is reflected in the work that our teachers, you know, how they're positioning themselves. They see that this structure for learning that we're having to deal with right now is not nearly as prohibitive for them in terms of how they're going to cover content, how they're going to assess learning, how they're going to deliver new learning to students, as it might have been five or 10 years ago. And to that end, I want to share with you that of the 256 AP tests that our students took this last May, we outperformed Washington State and the United States in those AP tests in all but one subject. So our students did a fantastic job, and our teachers did a fantastic job, again, like outperforming their peers at a time when it was really challenging to learn content and then to take the test in a completely new format. They had to take it online, and it was completely unfamiliar to them. So I have a really high degree of faith and trust in my staff to take this situation, be positive and ambitious about it, and then structure the learning experience so that our students can be as successful as possible.
Thanks, Danny. I just have a question. I think you addressed it a little bit in your remarks there, but can you just address again the consecutive learning for like languages, the concern about like a gap of a quarter in between the two parts of a subject, how you're planning to try and mitigate that.
Yeah. Well, and so in talking with my language teachers in particular, there's a number of online tools that they have access to that they feel some optimism around having students engage in that work in the off quarter in order to maintain skills, and being able to introduce new content to them in the off quarter, and then they can use the time when they're with them to advance their learning. So there will, I would expect there to be in several of our subjects a combination of kind of accelerated learning during the quarter of instruction, and then a focus on maintenance of learning during the off quarter. And so our students should expect that they are going to have some minimal work that they will engage in the classes that they are not actively taking. So our teachers will have an active grade book open even for the classes in the off quarter. I mean, your students will still have 6 classes in Skyward, and they will still have 6 grade books open in Skyward. 3 of them will largely be dormant, but may have some minimal activity in them, and some classes more than others. So math classes, language classes, and AP classes are much more likely to have some minimal assignments that are given to students. And again, I'm using that support hour is going to be a key tool and asset for us in how we can, for instance, pair students up with their off quarter teacher so that they can once a week, say, engage in a lesson to maintain skills or get some independent practice that they can engage in.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense.
I'll just add, you know, at McMurray, our primary focus will be on math and how to maintain that continuity for us. And you know, Stephanie alluded to it earlier, but this new program that we're piloting, the iReady program, we think has some capacity for us to be able to provide some of that continuity of learning in math through our homeroom time.
Anyone else have questions?
It's not really a question, but I just want to say again how, like what Stephanie and Catherine were saying, how the district, how you all are prioritizing students who need more support than the kids who have families who can afford tutors or who can afford Princeton Review or who can afford all of that stuff. I think it is so crucial to really make sure that the 52 people who are left listening to us live really understand that our priority is to take care of the kids who struggle. And I just want to take my hat off to the 3 principals and to Thomas to really thank them and to Slade for your leadership on this, because I think this is the kind of thing where you can just, it is so important. And I think that, you know, I mean, I just can't, I mean, it's super late, I'm tired, but I just want to say that is so important to me. And I think it's really, really important to a lot of people on this call and in this community. And I know there are a lot of parents who are very, very anxious about getting their kids into a college that will, you know, like send their kids off and do fabulous things for their kids. And I have one of those that I'm hoping will actually graduate. Danny, please help him graduate. And I want him to go off to a fantastic college and blah, 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 blah. But they don't need that support. I mean, I love him, but you know what I mean? So I really thank you so much for the work you are doing in recognizing the kids who don't get recognized. And that is crucial. So blah, 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 I will keep going and soon I will be in bed and I will stop talking. But thank you for this, because I really, really, really appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Zabet. I mean, it's a core value that I think our entire administrative team and really our staff and across our system share, not as just a professional duty, but as a personal belief that we are in this business because we care about equity and we want to serve our whole community and we want to do it well. And it does mean that sometimes we have to make difficult decisions that are not always the best fit for every part of our system. And but it you know, what's good, what I've increasingly come to discover in 20 years in education is that what's good for our students who struggle in the end is actually good for all of our students.
Right.
That it is possible to actually create an educational environment that meets the needs of students well, and doesn't require, say, the sacrifice of our high-performing students in order for our struggling students to meet their needs.
Absolutely. Right. And the same with our bilingual, our Latino families. It's the same.
This is
I think,
Spring. Oh, okay.
Hi, Spring. Go ahead.
I'm that student right now that I'm in my 11th hour of Zooming all day. So I've been here, I've been listening, but I'm that student who can't bring themselves to turn their video on because it's been 11 straight hours for me. But I have a question, and I'm not sure how much it's been addressed tonight. And I know we've talked about it, but if anyone is still even around paying attention, but because it's so late, but I know they care, which is a reminder about this, you know, we've been talking about data and teacher input and parent input, but just somebody to speak about student input, because the students were also surveyed, right? And you know, they're the ones, our students, who we do this all for, who are directly impacted. And so I just wanted somebody to say something about the student voice and how that was taken into account in all of this as well, as much as possible. Thank you.
Slade, do you want to speak to the?
I can speak a little bit to that. As we know, kind of two students had a real difficult spring, like staff, and I think welcomed the opportunity of summer to do something other than stress about school or Zooming or you know, assignments. And so I think when summer came, we did have a pretty strong exhale of relief, and but that's why we were real quick to try to get survey results, and the reopening team did do a pretty strong analysis. And I think we were fortunate that before we left for summer, we had both, you know, middle and high school students on that team, and pointed to their voices during those team meetings as much as possible. So I do believe that the student voices is critical, and share your desire too. I think coming back from summer, it can be a little challenging, and so the ability to create a space or opportunities for students to give input in such a short period of time before this evening, it was a challenge. But moving forward, you know, I believe we have much better buildings. We have the formation of the student equity team at the high school, and I feel confident that we're going to move into year 2 of my superintendent advisory board at the high school to be prepared to do that kind of progress monitoring and feedback all along the way about how is this working, what can we do better. And so once students are back, and it's the access part. I know mine still are, you know, kind of in that summer mode, and we only did have one student return back to the reopening team on the 17th, and I'm hoping to see more of them return when we met earlier last week. I'm hoping to see more return on the 20th when we meet again, so we can, you know, kind of hear from them some reaction about, you know, what their experience is going to look like in the fall.
I do want to say that we did collect a lot of feedback from our students in the spring around how things were going, and it really mirrored a lot of the feedback we got from parents about wanting there to be more simplified communication, more streamlined, and similar practices, from our teachers, and more clarity. So we have incorporated that into our planning. I'm really looking forward to getting back with our students because, I mean, can you imagine, one of the largest social movement in the history of the United States has taken place and school has not been in session for the entire length of the Black Lives Matter movement as in its most recent manifestation. And so it's just been killing me to not have our students be able to interact with one another and to have any semblance of community and to share in what this means for them during their lifetime. So I'm really looking forward to getting back and having the interactions with students and then re-engaging them, because really as we engage in this learning model, it is going to shift. We're going to have to monitor and adjust along the way. It's not going to be like the spring where we sort of declared that you're going to get an hour of work a week and all the assignments will push out on day X. And it was a very static model. This is going to be much more like normal school, where every day teachers are teaching new content and there's going to be new learning targets every day. It's going to, even though it'll be remote, it'll feel like normal school and be much more dynamic in that way. So as we need to collect and monitor and adjust, we can do that with our students.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate the question, Spring. That was.
I appreciate the answer and all of the incredible work that everyone, it's so complex. And it's so much work, and let's all just hope that, it's only the first half of the year and this is temporary and it's going to be ever evolving and improving. But
Yeah.
All righty. So any more questions? Are we ready to take on the resolution and go to bed?
I was gonna say, any more questions around the resolution? As is, we can make the amendment to it that Bob suggested, attaching the template reference in there. But barring any other questions, I would make a motion. I would recommend that the board take action and approve our resolution 785.
I move that we approve resolution 785.
I second it.
Great. All in favor?
Excuse me,
Aye.
point. We need, forget it.
Go ahead, Bob. Don't
You
let
gotta
us screw up now.
You got to move the amendment, and then you got to move the final passage.
All right. Can we have a motion to amend 785 to vote the attachment?
So moved.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I
Okay.
now move that, now we have to approve it, right? Again.
Bob, you didn't vote.
He did.
My mute keeps muting itself.
You can
Probably
raise your hand.
channeling Reagan. Probably. I am in favor.
Excellent.
Okay.
I move that we approve resolution 785. Is that it? Is that the number?
Yep. It's about you seconding that
I'm
again?
totally seconding it.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And thankfully, we have come to the
Send that off
end
to
of the
us.
meeting. There's the consent agenda there.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
I second that.
Second that.
All in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Aye.
I kept muting it.
New business? Nah, too late for new business today, folks. We'll have plenty of new business, I'm sure, soon enough. All right, well, thank you everyone who made it this far, and thanks again for everyone who presented during the meeting and for all of the incredible amount of work and intentionality and thoughtfulness and labor and frustration.
Yeah, you self-muted, Reagan.
I don't know, where did I leave off? I was in the middle of thanking everyone for all of their incredible amount
Their
of
labor, their intention,
labor,
their labor.
intentionality, yeah, all that good stuff to get us to this point. And I think that I'll just repeat what I said in the op-ed. I have a lot of faith. My money's on our people in our district, and I think we're going to have a pretty darn good school product here. And I just encourage everyone to test drive it with an open heart and an open mind, and help us make it better as we go. And with that, I guess I am closing.
Thank you, everybody.
Ending the meeting at what, 10:35?
10:35.
Okay.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.